Okay, what's up, guys? We are live, so bear with us. We're just going to test some of the tech stuff because we are using a completely different program. So we're using what's it called? We're using Zoom. Okay, so wait, fuck. Hang on a second. Add it to the stream. Okay, and then I gotta do this full screen layout. Nope, still not working. Hang on a second. So for all the TikTok people, we're streaming across multiple platforms. Okay, so I need to minimize.
Yeah, we're trying something a little new this time.
I've literally never streamed like this before, so it's interesting.
Nah, it's all good, man. Same here.
Okay, there we go. I think this is gonna work now. Great. Okay, cool. Awesome. We're good. Okay, so let's, I think, start off with a quick introduction for my audience, who you are, and then we'll get into it.
Me? All right. Well, how's it going? My name is Cameron Williams. I go by KS Williams on my current account that I am live streaming from. A little bit of a backstory. Let's face it, I do, surprisingly shocking, I do have a life outside of TikTok. I am married. I have a baby on the way.
Cool. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm a certified EMT in the state of New York, and I operate in New York City. But I have also been all around the U.S. I've worked security detail, and I've been making content on here for about a year, actually about the same time that Alex has uploaded stuff on here as well. Actually, maybe about a good week and a half earlier.
Okay.
Give or take.
Cool. My name is Alex. I run a company called Playing with Fire. We make dating advice videos. So we have a YouTube, TikTok, and whatnot. So I think a good starting point would be for us to play the clip that you made in response to my video, because I think it outlines your criticisms. And then we can go through these one by one. So on your end, you might not be able to see it, but you should be able to hear it. And if you can, just let me know and we'll try to figure out another way.
Hi, how's it going? Yeah, sure, I'll debate you. Hydration check. Alright, so, what do you want to talk about? You don't know how to take no for an answer? Can't take the head on a boundary? Is everything wrong with you, buddy? You having issues? Possibly rejection? How about the time when people actually had claims? We just go ahead and say nobody can back up their claims. There's really nothing to back up. It's called human decency. Although that's probably something you wouldn't comprehend, considering how you just try to wiggle your way and manipulate someone into getting what you want. I don't have a degree in psychology, but I do know that that's probably a red flag. You had a couple people trying to tell you on what's not consensual, yet you don't listen to them because they're a woman. Are you that fragile, my dude? Your toxic masculinity is showing. You know, I knew someone like you once. Couldn't keep a relationship, treating women like a notch on their belt, acting like an alpha male in the prime of their life, when in reality they were just having a midlife crisis. Take for someone who's happily married. Maybe listen to the woman for a change. Maybe respect their wishes. Who knows? You may end up having a better outlook. Do better.
Cool. All right. So that's basically, you mentioned a few things there. So let's just go through them one by one. So let me start off by saying this is going to be a respectful debate. So I want everyone in the comments not to harass this person. Don't send them messages. Irregardless of the conversation, this should be a respectful debate, and no one should be harassing anyone after that. So with that out of the way, let's start off with these claims one by one. So there's 4 that I wrote down. The first one is can't keep a relationship. That's probably the easiest one. So where do you get this claim from that I can't keep a relationship?
Oh, no, that was just me trolling. But in all reality, I mean, because I've known quite a few people that have been in and out, like different relationships, like getting like one woman after another woman, mostly using like different pickup lines and pickup methods, tactics, the whole 9 yards. In fact, as a matter of fact, my wife right now, her past relationship was roughly the same way. She's actually been under the same circumstances, and actually one person that I was a roommate with in Washington State was the same kind of individual, and literally left and right. It was always like one other person, but it was actually it wasn't for relationship purposes. Let's face it. I'm pretty sure we both know it was mainly just to get into someone's pants.
So I'm a little confused. So are you claiming that I can't keep a relationship, or are you claiming that, people like me, but not really me, who can't keep relationships? Like, which one is your claim?
I said I knew someone like you.
Okay. But what does that have to do with me?
Because I've looked into a couple of your different videos. I've looked into quite a few of them, and a lot of them have that same generalization.
Okay, yeah, because if you look into my content with a little bit of a detail, you'll see that I have a girlfriend. She's been on my channel many times. She's done many content with me. She's active in the comments. She's probably watching this. So this first claim is just blatantly false. Like, I have a relationship, I've been in a relationship. That would be like me saying, I don't know, like, you don't own any plaid shirts or whatever, dress shirts, and you're like, dude, I'm wearing a dress shirt right now. Like, makes no sense. So I think this one's pretty easy to dispute. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. The next one you say is that I manipulate people. So I think a good way to start is just, what is your definition of manipulation?
You know the Cambridge Dictionary of manipulation?
I have a definition, but I want to hear what your definition is, and we compare them.
The definition for
Manipulation.
according to Cambridge Dictionary, is, I had this earlier. It's actually right here. I had it in a different video, as a matter of fact. You highlighted a.
Okay, I can just read it to you, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with this. When a person uses controlling and harmful behaviors to avoid responsibility, conceal their true intentions, or cause doubt and confusion. I think that's a definition that we can pretty much.
That is a valid definition.
Okay, cool. So we agree on the definition.
Actually, pretty similar to the Cambridge Dictionary. So.
Yeah, that's might be where it's from. So, okay, so now that we know the definition, can you give me an example of how I manipulate people?
You can actually look through quite a few of your different videos. As a matter of fact, you had one that was deleted not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Say this girl do this if a girl blocks you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through a couple of those different videos. Do this if a girl blocks you. Go to someone else's phone, pretend to be like someone else's friend. Hey, this person wants to know why, you blocked them. I'm pretty sure you probably have your reasons, but everybody knows. But at the same time, there could be a different reason, like, hey, maybe they just don't want to speak to this person. Maybe they just want to personally block the number.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
there's quite a few times.
Yeah, there's many reasons why someone would block them. But how is that manipulation? It just sounds like you can make the argument that's needy. That's might be a fair argument. You can make the argument that it's a waste of time. But how is that manipulation? It sounds like it's pretty straightforward. It just sounds like you're interested in the girl and you're giving it one more shot.
Mm-hmm. It's simple. I mean, if you want to give, sometimes you do have to move on. I mean, maybe that person's not the right person for you.
Yeah,
Even
of course.
You want to give it another shot, but at the same time, it might have to be for a different time.
Yeah, of course. Well, in the video, I say that. Go ahead.
Yeah, give it time.
Right. Well, I mean, if a person's blocked you, you can't really waiting time isn't going to unblock the number. So it's pretty. In that video, I say hit her up once. If she doesn't respond, then just move on. Right. So I'm not saying for the guys to keep barraging the girl. And again, I'm just trying to figure out how's that manipulating the girl. It sounds like it's pretty straightforward. You're just showing interest and you're saying, hey, you blocked me, blah blah blah. I still want to chat. And that's it. You're pretty much I don't see how it's concealing your true intentions, because your intentions are super obvious when you do that.
You're still trying to contact the person on another person's phone.
Sure.
I mean, there's actually a couple people right here that have actually been victims of stalking, and they can testify to it.
Yeah, well, obviously we can both agree that stalking is wrong, but how is this stalking?
You don't know. I mean, that could be stalking. That tactic could probably get people hurt. Let's face it.
Okay, we're kind of going different circles, but so can you explain to me how texting a girl once from a different number could hurt the girl? What's the
I'm not saying it could.
Well, you just said it could get people hurt, right?
It could, because you don't know what that specific individual is going through. They could be suffering from PTSD. They could have had this happen to them before. In fact, one person in the comments right now was a victim, like I said earlier, is a victim of stalking and harassing, and they had this same thing happen to them quite a few times.
So we both agree that stalking and harassing is wrong. I don't think there's any disagreement there. What I think we're disagreeing on is whether hitting up a girl once from a different number is stalking and harassment. If a girl was
made their intentions clear.
What?
9 times out of 10, they've made their intentions clear.
Right. But so if a girl calls the police and says, hey, there's this guy stalking me, and the police is like, what happened? Well, he texted me once from a different number. Do you think the police would, for example, file a restraining order? Do you think that there would be charges, or do you think the police would be like, okay, cool?
Possibility. I mean, like I said, it could happen, but at the same time, it couldn't happen. But you don't know. I mean, like I said, it could happen once, but then again, who's to say they won't go from a different number after that or a different number after that?
Right. Well, I mean, anything could happen, but that's not what I'm teaching. I'm not saying for dudes to keep, keep hitting the girl for different numbers. I'm saying hit her up once from a different number. She doesn't respond, just move on. Right. So I'm not teaching the guys to just hit her up from a whole bunch of different numbers. So you're saying that this could lead to someone getting hurt. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how someone can get hurt if you hit her up once from a different number. Like, what exactly could happen?
I'm thinking what we need to work on is the method of how you're showing, because let's face it, you probably had this whole issue on Twitter as well. Let's face it, that's why I don't even use Twitter anymore. You probably have
I've really never been
do one thing, and then they probably just make one assumption, and then they say that. But maybe it's the method.
Okay, well, first of all,
training people, because you're speaking to a whole different audience, a different platform, different audience.
Okay, well, now you're talking about like how I'm not presenting myself well, which is a whole separate argument. I'm trying to go back into like the ethics of it, right? Like you can make the argument that maybe I'm not presenting my content well for TikTok. That's a whole different argument. But what exactly about what I teach on TikTok, like the ethics of it, how is that hurting people? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How is it manipulation? And I'm just like trying to get a clear answer on that specifically.
People are making it clear on their boundaries.
Okay, sure. The girl disappears on you. Well, first of all, she doesn't make it clear she disappears on you, right? Like she's hinting at that she's not interested. Sometimes, I've shown the examples that it can actually work. I've shown that pretty clearly. So again, like you didn't make the claim that I'm violating people's boundaries. That's a little bit of a different discussion. You're saying that I'm manipulating or and that could potentially hurt people. So I just want to get like a clear example of how I can hurt people. And if you're no longer claiming that, then that's fine. Then you can just backtrack and, say, take that claim back and say, okay, I take that back. You no longer manipulate people. I think you just violated people's boundaries. I gave you about 10
examples.
What?
I gave you about 10 examples.
You gave me one example. You gave me the boundary video, right? I mean, you gave me the double texting video.
The do this of the block. That's one of quite a few. There's a couple of others. If you want to be more than happy to look them up, you're more than welcome to. Say this if the girl refuses to give you your number, if you're talking on Instagram, but they say I'm comfortable, or if you're talking to someone, you're DMing someone, oh, I'm more comfortable doing this on Instagram instead.
Right, but those are videos I make, but I'm trying to get a clear idea of how that's manipulation.
A woman is making her boundaries clear, and there's at the same time, someone could be making an excuse. Okay, all right, well, I don't have Instagram. So that's a no-go for me. But you don't know. They could very well have an Instagram, but they just don't want to give it out to the person. They're just figuring out how to get this person's number.
See, you're talking about now that I'm violating people's boundaries, which is a different claim. I'm sticking to the manipulation. We can go into the boundaries thing right afterwards. But as we define manipulation, it's when you use controlling or harmful behavior. So what exactly is controlling or harmful here? That's my question.
Like I said, manipulation does violate boundaries, though. That's the thing. Because people give a clear boundary, and then you try it. Then next thing you know, someone will try to like talk their way into going around said boundary.
Yeah, dude. I mean, anything could happen. This is like kind of making the argument that a hardware store is responsible if someone buys a hammer and murders someone, right? Like that was clearly not the intended purpose. I'm sure that someone could misinterpret my content and do some crazy fucked up shit, but that's not really like within my control. Like we just defined manipulation. I'll define again when a person uses controlling and harmful behaviors to avoid responsibility, conceal their true intentions, or cause doubt and confusion. We both agree on this definition. So, let's not talk about violating boundaries, and we can talk about that afterwards. Because that's not related to this definition. Like, how is any of my content controlling or harmful? Like, let's just start off with the controlling part. How am I controlling people, or how am I harming girls?
I'm not saying you in particular. But I'm saying the people that are watching your content, they could be using that for other ulterior motives. I mean, you say your title is specifically "No BS Number One Sex."
Okay, so because now I said something different. You're saying that I'm not doing it, but someone watching my content could do it. Is that your claim?
Yeah, breaking a boundary is controlling. That's the thing, though.
Okay, so Okay, so you're saying that if you tell me that, hey, dude, I don't want to whatever do a podcast, and I say, oh, come on, man, that's kind of lame. That's me controlling you. Like that just sounds like I'm not respecting your wishes, but I don't see how that's me controlling you.
Disrespecting someone's wishes is a violation of boundaries.
Yeah, dude, we keep going back to the boundaries, right? Like I understand that look, if you want to have a discussion about how I'm violating people's boundaries, I'm not even going to necessarily disagree with that. Yeah, I understand that in a very small way, that me double texting in a micro way, I am sort of violating her boundaries. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm disagreeing with is the manipulation part. Manipulation is a lot more serious than violating someone's boundaries in a very small level, right? I think we all violate each other's boundaries on, different levels, right? Like it happens. It's just the question is how much. I'm talking about the manipulation aspect of it. Like where exactly I want you to point out a specific example of how I'm harming girls. And it sounds like you're saying that I'm not actually the one harming it, but my subscribers could. Like, is that correct? I want to figure out exactly what your argument is.
What you're teaching people.
Okay. Yes. What I'm teaching people. Go ahead.
Like I said earlier, you don't know. Like I said, so.
I mean, is your argument that go ahead.
Someone could be taking it the wrong way.
Sure, I agree with that. Someone could misinterpret that, but how is it fair to blame me for that? Like someone could watch a video on how to use a hammer and then go out and kill someone with that hammer, right? Like that, the hammer company is clearly not responsible for that. Of course, there's a whole bunch of crazy people on the internet. As a content creator, I give disclaimers and whatnot. I do that all the time if you watch my long form content. But if someone takes my content and completely misinterprets it and uses it for evil, that's not really fair to blame that at me and then say that I'm manipulating people.
You might want to make it clear then to people if you haven't done so already.
Make it clear what? That you should not use my content for evil?
Don't do it for the wrong reasons. Don't do it to use it for the wrong reasons. Everybody has a disclaimer lately nowadays, don't they?
Yeah, sure. And I do that all the time on my content. I always say, don't do this to harass girls. Don't leave people alone. Whenever I do debates, I say, don't bother this person. I think my audience has a really good track record also. So I've had many chicks on my podcast, and not one of them has ever told me, hey, I received harassing DMs. I've had people hit me up. Like that never happens. In fact, usually when it happens on the other side. Usually it's when I get into a internet beef war with some social justice warrior, and then my girlfriend gets a bunch of harassing messages saying, oh, you have low self-esteem because you're with Alex, or you're a piece of shit, and blah blah blah. So it's usually, I've never seen one example of my audience being the one that violates people's boundaries. I'm not saying it couldn't theoretically happen as I get bigger. I'm sure it can, but I already do that. So again, don't you think it's kind of unfair to blame me for something that could potentially happen, given the fact that I tell people not to do it?
Repeat that question, because I'm checking this real quick as well. I'm
okay. What I'm saying is,
know as well to not do the same thing to you. So
wait, sorry, say that again.
Yeah, and I'm currently letting them know to not do the same thing to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, they're going to do it anyway, but I mean, dude,
no, they won't. If they do, I'll block them personally.
Yeah, I mean, I've received. There's about 20 TikTok reaction videos made about me every day. People saying I'm a rapist, I'm a pedophile, I'm an abuser, I must have a criminal record, all slanderous claims.
Not once have I said that yet, have I?
No, you have not. I'm not saying you have. You have not said that. I'll give you full credit for that. I'm just saying that's typically the kind of reactions I get on TikTok. And I have thick skin, so I don't really care. But let's get back to, I guess, the things involving me and you. So the statement that I made was, don't you think it's a little unfair to accuse me, to say that, oh, you're manipulating people, or you are toxic masculinity, or that you lack human decency, which are all things that you mentioned in that video, given the fact that it sounds like the big issues that someone watching my content could potentially misinterpret it and do those things. But it's not like I'm doing those things. It's someone that watches my content could do it, and it's never happened yet. So you see where I'm going with this?
But you are condoning it, correct?
No. Which one specifically? Manipulation? No. Lacking human decency? No. Not keeping a relationship? No. What am I condoning?
Like I said, you're doing this You're actually doing it right now, if I'm not mistaken. Because think about it, because you're trying to justify, like telling people how to do this certain thing right here, like it's a whole one trick solves all, even though it's not.
No, I never teach one trick solves all. In fact, I always say, but I am trying to give guys the tools to understand women better, be more successful with women, and have the kind of dating and sex life that they want. So, yeah, like, what do you think I'm condoning? I guess start with that. Like you said, I'm doing it right now. What am I doing?
I know right now you're trying to wiggle your way around what I was talking about. You're talking about boundaries and how they align with manipulation.
Well, it seems like your claim is kind of wavering. Like you just said before this that, for example, that, okay, well, maybe it's not you, it's someone watching your content. Now it seems like you're saying it's me again. So like, which one is it? Is it me or is it someone potentially watching my content?
Like I said, it's literally falls under like how are you telling, like for instance, like let's go back to the whole block and the number thing. Let's go back to that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're going on a completely different phone, pretending to be someone else, that's manipulation. You're lying about who you are to someone else. You're lying to someone else. You're saying, hey, I'm such and such as friend. I just want to know why you haven't talked to him.
Okay.
You're lying to that person, claiming that you are someone else when you could just say, hey, it's me.
Okay, there's a little bit of example of white lie. So let me ask you this question. What if instead of texting someone from a different number, you just have your friend text and you say, like you actually have your friend do it and say like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah's friend. So technically it's not a lie. Would that be an issue then?
They could also make it clear that they have stated a boundary. Did they not? You put them on the spot. That's fraud.
It's fraud. It's fraud to violate someone's boundaries.
Technically, yeah, you're lying to them, aren't you?
No, you don't have to lie to someone to violate their boundaries. In the example I gave, if it's my friend doing it, there's no lying involved. It's actually him texting saying, hey, Alex wants to talk to you again, blah, 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 blah. He wants to know why you blocked him, right? So where's the lie in that if it's actually your friend doing it?
Like I said, you're also putting someone on the spot too, aren't you?
But those are completely different things. So I'm not lying, right?
At that particular instance, you're not, but you're still putting them on the spot, are you not?
Sure. No,
you're still trying to go around the block number, are you not?
You're definitely putting them on the spot in a way. Yes. I mean, they don't have to answer in front of you, right? So in a way, you are putting them on the spot in a very micro way. But how is that like putting someone on the spot is not part of manipulation? That's just, you could say that's like being a dickhead or something. That would be a different claim. But, for manipulation, it doesn't say anything about putting someone on the spot. Right. It says
it's very simple though. They blocked your number. They don't want to speak to that person.
I understand that. Well, I mean, not always. For example, in the example I gave on the video, clearly it worked out for the better. Like, do you acknowledge that?
I do acknowledge the fact that if they block someone's number, they have made it very clear that they do not wish to continue to communicate.
Right, but then there's cases like I've shown that where actually that wasn't the case, where the person blocked someone, they overreacted, and they apologized, and then the people went on a date, and there was a happily ever after. Right, like I showed that in the example.
How often does that happen, though?
I would say something like maybe 1/3 to half the time. I mean, I don't know. This is not something I often do myself. I actually, I'm pretty. I don't really need to chase pussy much because I have a girlfriend and whatnot. But this is something that I know people have done. I tried it once in the past. I've had it work. I couldn't give you an exact percentage, but I would say between 1/3 and half. So it works sometimes. It doesn't really hurt you anything. It takes like 10 seconds to send the text. So it doesn't really like hurt you in any way. If you're making the argument that this is technically lying, you might actually be correct. Yeah, there is technically a lie. So that's why I'm asking, okay, so if we remove that component and I just have my friend do it for real, that removes the lying aspect of it. So then what's the issue? Like, how's it manipulation at that point?
You're still trying to get around to you're still trying to find a way around getting the block number.
Yeah, but that's not manipulation.
That kind of is because you're violating that boundary. They've made it very clear.
But violating a boundary is not considered manipulation. That's just violating a boundary.
Actually is.
I mean, like, we can go back to the definition. When a person uses controlling harmful behaviors to avoid responsibility, conceal their true intentions, or cause doubt and confusion, right? There's nothing about here about violating a boundary. I agree that you, generally speaking, shouldn't violate people's boundary. We can move on to a different example. Like we've talked about the block number thing, that video. Okay, let's try. Give me another example.
Controlling someone or something to your own advantage, often unfairly or dishonestly. Intermediate definition, manipulation, noun, source, Cambridge Dictionary.
Right. So okay. So you said say that again. Say that one more time.
Absolutely. Controlling someone or something to your own advantage, often unfairly, dishonestly.
Okay, so where's the unfair and dishonest component of it?
Because you, like I said, you're still trying to get around a block number. That's one example. And then there's another example. If you're trying to get someone's number when they've already made it clear that they're not comfortable handing out a number to someone.
Well, let me ask this question a different way, because we're sort of going in circles. Why do you see it as so problematic for someone, if they get blocked, to hit up a girl once from a different number, just once, and say, hey, I'm still interested in talking to you. Would love to get in touch. If you're not interested, it's okay. Like, why is that so problematic?
3 words. No means no.
I mean, that's just like a tagline. I'm trying to figure out like exactly why you see that as problematic.
They've made it clear. And I've actually spoke to quite a few different people, predominantly in the kink community. Surprisingly, I've spoke to a couple of different people because I figured what better people to speak about on this matter than someone who understands that consent is a #1 key. And even they have questions, honestly, on those regards.
On what? On the topic of my video, or what do they have questions about?
On the topic of getting around a block number, for instance, on top, among other different things.
Okay, well, hypothetically speaking, let's say you and I were trying to go out. Like, let's say you and I were buddies. I was like, yo, man, let's go out tonight. And you're like, nah, man, I don't feel like it. And I'm like, come on, bro, stop being a bitch. Would you see that as like really fucked up behavior on my part if I tried once to get you to go out again? Well, let's say I don't do it in a derogatory way. Let's say, come on, bro, we're going to have so much fun. Let's go out. You told me no. I said, come on, bro, let's go out. Would you see that as like very problematic?
Do it.
What?
Can't do it. I'm busy.
Okay, that's fine. And you told me the second time, and then I've said, okay, fine, it's cool. Would that be very problematic? I tried twice.
That actually would not.
Sorry, what? I can't hear you. What? Is it problematic or is it not?
I said I made it clear that I was not interested at the moment.
Yeah, no, I get that. I tried twice. So I'm asking you, do you think that's problematic or not that I tried twice?
Who's to say it wouldn't be a third time or a fourth time?
But let's say there's not.
We don't know that, though.
But you can't blame people for could-haves that didn't happen. That's like me saying, well, what's to say that, you know, because we did a podcast this time, that next time you're not going to show your dick and try to get my podcast? Like, it makes no sense because that didn't happen. So we can't hold people responsible for what ifs that didn't happen. Like, you know, like that's just like a really weird logic to hold people responsible for things that they didn't do that didn't happen.
I've made my point clear.
I'm trying to figure.
Hypothetical. Let's get back to the hypothetical. Get back to the hypothetical. And you say, let's go out. I tell you straight up, dude, I can't. I'm busy today.
Right.
Say, come on, let's go. I already said no. You said it the second time. I'll give you that, but I made it clear the first time.
Okay. I asked you a second time. So would you say that I'm a manipulative friend or I'm a bad person for doing that?
I say I would figure you probably need to understand that when I said no, I meant no.
Okay, but the question is, like, you're not answering the question. I'm asking you, what is that problematic on an ethical level that I tried twice? It's a pretty straightforward question. I'm just trying to figure out your ethics. So according to your ethics, is that problematic? Like, does that make me a bad person? Does that make me manipulative? Because you told me no once. I tried again. I used positive incentive. I'm like, dude, come on. It's going to be so much fun. You told me no a second time. Like, okay, fine, man. It's all good. Is that problematic in your opinion?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay,
It
so
could be.
So
I
it
said
could be, but
potentially, yeah.
okay, but is it or is it not in this example?
Well, I'm going to answer your question with another question.
Please just answer my question with an answer, and then you can ask me all the questions you want. But I hate when people answer a question with another question because that's not an answer. That's just another question.
And are you sure you don't want me to do that?
You can absolutely ask me any question you want after you answer my question.
See where I'm getting at?
Okay, so right. So you just basically you gave me an example of doing what I did. Okay, but again, that doesn't answer my question. I'm trying to figure out your ethics. According to my ethics, it's not a big deal, but I'm trying to figure out according to your ethics.
Like I said, I gave you an example. It seems a little bit uncomfortable. What do you think?
Right, but I'm not asking you for example. I'm asking you a question about your ethics. Like I understand examples of how this works. I'm trying to figure out according to your mind, according to your ethics, would that be fucked up? You can say yes, you can say no, you can give me, reason why it is, why it's not.
Like I said, yeah.
Okay, so okay. So now we're getting an answer. So you're saying it is fucked up because I asked you twice. That is fucked up. Is that correct?
It is. It is.
Okay. I mean, I guess then we just have a completely different way of viewing the world. I think most people, like 99% of people, would not see that as fucked up. Like they would just be like, okay, that's just normal human communication, like asking twice, even asking 3 times to get your friends to go out. So for you, that's really problematic. Like you would cut off a relationship with a friend if they tried to ask you twice to go out, or like how far would you take it? Like how far of a violation of your boundaries is that?
Are you sure you're not comparing apples to oranges at this point?
I think it's a fairly similar example because we're talking about a friend asking another friend several times when they made their intentions clear. And here we're talking about a chick who you don't know asking her twice. So I don't see it as apples to oranges. I see it as apples to apples.
Here's the difference then. You know your friend. You don't know this other person.
That's true. But that is kind of an argument in my favor because if you don't know this person, because if you know your friend, then you probably know when they say no that they actually mean that, right? You know their character, or you know if they're the kind of person that needs persuading. You don't know this girl. So if you don't know that she's the kind of girl that needs persuading, or she needs to be talked into it, or she just, is just adamant. So that's kind of a point in my favor, the fact that you don't know the girl. You don't know this person. She's a complete stranger. You don't know how her mind works.
You're right. We don't know how they work. We don't know what they have experienced in the past. We don't know.
Let me ask
a very well experienced. Like a clear example, I did see the roasting video, which let's face it, that's probably where I got some of the stuff from. I'm not gonna lie, but let's when we say we have a tendency to generalize people a little bit too much and too often nowadays. Like for instance, I know I did see your roasting video. I saw how it was, and I'm pretty sure you probably made the assumption that a lot of these people were just very lonely, or they're just a bunch of SJWs, which, by the way, I am very flattered about the title, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly correct assumption, but yeah.
But you don't know what they go through during that time. Like, for instance, I'm not going to name names on this one particular individual who you did highlight in your recent video, who happens to be a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
You did generalize them.
Sure. Yeah, you're right.
But one thing you forgot to, but at the same time, you also didn't know that she's a 2-time survivor.
I did not know that. I know nothing about her.
And there's a generalization, isn't it?
Right, but now we're getting into like the ethics of my roast. I mean, it's not like I went after her first. She made a roast of me first, and then I did a response, right? So I'm responding to people on TikTok, but we're kind of getting besides the point. I don't see that as problematic, nor does she know anything about me. When, all the people on TikTok are claiming, oh, you could never get a girlfriend. They don't know the fact that I already have a girlfriend, right? Which is pretty obvious if you watch even a fraction of my content where they're saying, oh, you must have a criminal record. They don't know the fact that I've never had any issues with police. I'm like a fucking law-abiding citizen. So that's going on both sides. But I want to ask this question a different way. Do you acknowledge that women most women like persistence? They like a man who's persistent.
They like a man who's respectful.
Yes, they like a man who's respectful and persistent. Do you acknowledge that persistence is a turn on for most women?
Depends on how it works. Depends on how it goes. Because most of the time they want you to respect their boundaries as well.
I mean, no chick ever has been like laying in bed masturbating and thinking, oh God, he respected my boundaries. But okay, yeah, women do want someone who respects their boundaries. That is true. I mean, I think that's pretty much every human being, but there's more to it than just respecting their boundaries. Women like confidence, like charisma. And one of those things I'm claiming is persistence based on like literally every single chick I've ever interviewed. So do you acknowledge that or do you deny that?
What's your definition of persistence?
A man who goes for what he wants within reason, who, if he wants something, he's going to try to go for it, several times if necessary. Now he's going to do it in a non-desperate, non-pushy way, but he's still going to try. There's many different ways that you can try to accomplish your goal. You can do it in a very pushy way, or you can do it in a very laid-back, non-pushy way, right? I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
Are you a fan of gardening?
Sorry, what?
Are you a fan of gardening?
No, I'm not.
No, you're not? Yeah, I help my mother-in-law grow some herbs, a bunch of basil, a lot of stuff, so that we can do a lot of home cooking.
Okay.
So a lot of the persistence and stuff. Well, a lot of people, when people want persistence lately nowadays, or what you consider persistence, they want things to be done right then at the moment. Am I wrong?
They want things to be done in the moment. I mean, I think all human beings probably want things in a rapid way. So yes, I mean, I think that's pretty much every human being. We all want what we want and we want it now. Most people have a hard time with delayed gratification.
Yeah, you're right. We do. But at the same time, a little bit of patience definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. No one's denying that.
Yeah, you're right. It is. But it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of care to fix those herbs up. Because if you do it too quick and you're persistent about getting it done and having them grow immediately right then, they're just going to wilt. You take your time with it. And the next thing you know, after a good couple of months or so, then you have a full harvest.
That sounds like a lovely gardening analogy, but again, going back to my initial question, do you acknowledge? Okay, I'll give you an example. Grant Cardone, he's a famous internet marketer, salesperson, blah blah. He has a story. So he, when he was he was interested in this girl. So what he would do is he would call her once a month for 2 years. Right? She wouldn't pick up. He would leave a voicemail. I think on the 23rd or the 24th month, she picked up. They went on a date. Now they're married happily ever after. They have kids. Blah 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 blah. Now I will argue that that's pretty simpy and kind of bizarre behavior, but that is persistence. So that's an example of persistence that's not pushy, right? Because he's not hitting her up every day. He's not like saying, hey, if you don't pick up, you're a bitch. He's saying, hey, we'd love to meet you if you're interested. And he would do that once a month, right? It's kind of bizarre behavior, but it's persistence without being pushy or needy. So that's an example. So I'm asking you again, for the third time, do you acknowledge that most women, not all, but most women like a guy who's persistent, similar to the way Grant Cardone was?
And I gave you my answer. It depends on the level of persistence.
Okay, depends on the level. So if he goes too far, then no. But if he does it, just the right amount, then yes.
Yeah, consistent. Is a person being persistent or are they being consistent? That's a bigger question.
Let's say they're doing both. You can't really be consistent without being persistent.
They're two different things.
They're kind of intertwined, but again, I don't want to go on a side tangent. Like, right? Yeah, okay, fine. Let's just say he's doing both. He's being persistent and consistent. He's hitting her up once in a while, non-needy, nothing bad, nothing offensive, nothing, harmful, nothing like that. Simply showing interest. Hey, I'm still interested. Once in a while.
But here's the thing, though. Consistent is being someone to always be admirable. But That's a different thing than persistence, isn't it not?
I'm just kind of confused why you just don't want to acknowledge that most women like persistence. Like most women like a man who's persistent. Like I've seen it time and time again when I've done podcasts. You know, we had a story. We were doing a podcast last time with a chick. She told me, again, these are extreme examples. I'm not advocating this, but very attractive girl, has an OnlyFans, blah, 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 nice big booty. And she was saying that this guy was hitting her up on Instagram. She ignored his first 50 DMs. But he wasn't getting butthurt. He wasn't getting needy. He would just send her nice messages saying, hey, I'm still interested. Hey, I'd love to take you out, blah, blah. Again, not something I would do. I think it's kind of simpy and needy. But, it was persistent. And he did that for, I don't know, a long period of time. She responded to the 51st, 52nd message. And I literally asked her, like, why did you respond to this guy, like, after so long? Like, were you not annoyed that he didn't take the hint? And she's like, well, I admired his persistence, and I gave him a chance. And then, now we're dating, right? So that's a clear example of how persistence turned a girl on. And that's just him hitting her up 50 times. All I'm saying is hit up a girl once if she blocks you. That's it. If she's not interested, move on. But hit her up once, because women, generally speaking, like persistence.
Yeah, but persistence would be fighting against the maybe, though, would it not? Instead of fighting against the no?
Well, yes, it's okay, but the maybe is the girl, but the girl didn't tell you no. If a girl says, hey, I'm not interested, fuck off, and she blocks you, I'm not advocating that you hit her up from a different number. At that point, she's made it clear. Her blocking you without saying anything, that's a maybe. She hasn't made it clear. She's saying, whoa, I don't know. You don't have an answer at that point. You seem kind of stumped by that.
You know what implied consent is?
I do not know what implied consent is, but I'd love to just get through these questions without you asking me. I'm happy to go into all your questions, I promise. But if we're going to answer each other's questions with questions, it's just going to be very chaotic.
Implied consent is a certain type of consent that is not verbal. You can have a clear idea that this is a certain kind of consent. This is actually, the implied consent is actually very common in the EMS field, because we have to use it a lot of times for patients that cannot speak, or patients that cannot speak for themselves, the whole 9 yards. But implied consent would fall under if the person blocks you.
Right. Okay. Sure. But again, it is not clear when a girl blocks you, because as I've shown, there's many cases where that winds up, working out. So if it was very clear, then there would be 0 cases of that working out. Then there would be no cases of guys being successful.
That's still implied, though.
Right, but then according to that logic, anything is implied. According to that logic, Grant Cardone was violating her boundaries when he kept hitting her up. According to that logic, that guy in the DMs was hitting her up. If you just take silence as meaning that the girl's not interested, then you can't show any level of persistence.
Was his number blocked or not?
Grant Cardone, or who are we talking about here?
No, you're saying that Grant Cardone, you're saying that by my logic, then Grant Cardone was violating that boundary. Was his number blocked or no?
I have no idea. I'm assuming it was not.
That's comparing apples to oranges then.
I don't see the blocking as nearly as big of a deal as you. But okay, let's move on to let's do a different example, because I think we're kind of stuck on this example. Pick a different example of an issue how with my content. What's another video that you found troubling from an ethical perspective?
Say this is a girl doesn't want to give you her number. So if you DM someone, you want their number. They said, I don't give it out. I'm more comfortable talking to people on Instagram, for instance. You say, oh, can't do, I don't have one. And you're using that tactic to get someone's number.
I think you see it as a tactic, but me, honestly, I don't check my Instagram DMs often. So for me, it's not a tactic. It's actually me communicating what I want. But let's assume it is a tactic. Why is that a problematic tactic? To tell a girl once, I'm not saying hit her up over and over again, berate her, but tell her once, hey, I don't use Instagram, shoot me your number. Or, hey, if you really hate me, you can block me. That's true. That's statistically true. So why is that problematic to try literally once again?
9 times out of 10, if you have to tell someone that if you hate me, you can block me, that's questionable in itself.
Why is that questionable? That's a statement of fact.
There's no reason you even have to tell them that anyways. There's no reason you have to. There really isn't, to be honest with you.
Well, she's hesitating to give the number, so she's having concerns.
Oh, well, she said clearly, I'm not comfortable giving my number out.
Right. And then you say, okay, but if you don't like me, you can block me. And then she says, okay, here's my number. So what's problematic about that? I'm not saying berate her for like 3 months and constantly annoy her and say, hey, like, yeah, I agree with you that if you constantly berate the girl over and over again, say, give me your number. Yeah, that's harassment. That's kind of weird. But I'm talking about just hitting her up once and saying, hey, if you don't like it, you can block me. Like, why is that? How is that not persistence? To me, that's like the perfect example of persistence. The girl says, hey, I don't want to do this. You say, okay, cool. Well, maybe you try one more time. And then she says, no, you move on. Like, how is that not being persistent?
She made it clear that she wasn't comfortable.
Right. And then in the example in the video, you saw that clearly she was comfortable once I explained to her that she can block me.
Again, she said that she did not want to do that. She didn't want to.
Okay. Do you acknowledge the fact that girls sometimes say things just because, and don't actually mean it? Like, can we agree on that? That people in general say things they don't really mean? I used to work in sales, and I used to sell solar panels. I would knock on people's doors, and I would be like, hey, you're like, oh, I don't want solar. Now, if I said, okay, cool, they don't want solar, I would get 0 solar sales. So I would say, okay, cool, I understand, sir, but have you heard about blah, 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 blah? And more often than not, they would, once they're open to it, they'd be like, okay, yeah, that was just a smoke screen. I'm actually cool with, hearing out your offer. But if you were just like, oh, you don't want solar, okay. Like, people say things in a defense mechanism all the time that they don't really mean. And, if you want to be persistent, you kind of have to feel out whether they actually mean that or not. So sometimes you have to ask twice. Doesn't mean you should harass the person. Doesn't mean you should berate them. Doesn't mean that you should shame them. But asking twice about something, I don't see that as problematic. And I would like it if you could explain to me why that's so problematic. Just asking the person the same thing twice, giving them a reason, giving them a logical justification. You say, we're friends, I'm trying to get you out, and say, hey, man, let's go out tonight. You're like, I don't know, man. I just don't feel like it. I have work early tomorrow. So I say, oh, cool, man. Well, if you get tired, you can call a night early, right? I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm saying, okay, but, I'm trying to give you a logical reason. And you might be like, you know what, that makes sense. If I do get tired, I can leave early. And then it's up to you to make that decision. Same thing here. You're telling the girl, okay, well, if you hate me, you can block me. And then she can make their own decision. Okay, do I want to proceed with this or not? In the example I showed, it clearly worked. So what's so problematic about that?
Well, after she says she's not comfortable, even you could give her you could give her all the options you want. She's not comfortable. She's not comfortable. Yeah,
I agree with you. And I'm not saying hit her up many times. I'm saying literally hit her up the second time. So we're not even disagreeing on that. Yeah, if she's not comfortable, then you just move on. That's fine. But hitting her up twice, that's not harassing. That's not stalking. That's just basic persistence. Like, would you not agree with that?
She gave a clear boundary.
Right. And you expressed your wishes again. And you can see in the example that it clearly wasn't a clear boundary because she clearly then changed her mind and said, sure, here's the number. So it wasn't a clear boundary. If it was a clear boundary, then the answer would be the same the second time.
I have to say, I really don't agree with that, to be honest with you.
Which part do you disagree with?
When you're asking the second time after they've made it clear the first time, that's, again, like I said from the get-go, they've made it clear that this individual has said no. There shouldn't be a reason to ask the second time. They've made it clear the first time.
Well, the reason to ask the second time is, again, because persistence is a virtue. Because, like in the example I gave where I was going door to door, if I gave up the first time I asked, I would get a grand total of 0 sales because every person when they answer a door would be like, oh, I'm not interested, right? I don't want solar panels. So you'd have to ask a few times. I'm not saying you camp out their house and keep harassing them. If they say no a few times, then you leave them alone. With dating, you don't have to try as many times. Just ask her twice. It's not hurtful.
Let me give you a sales example as well. Let me give you a sales example as well. So we had an individual that was, as a matter of fact, trying to sell solar panels not too long ago, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And they actually came knocking on our door, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
They did ask. I told them no. And that was that. They didn't have to ask a second time. That was it. They said, okay, have a good day.
And that's why
they still got their.
You what? Go ahead.
Like I said, I said no. They made it. They didn't even have to ask a second time. They were respectful, and they said, have a good day. That was it.
Well, do you have solar panels on your roof?
Nope.
Well, then they failed. Like I don't see how that's an example. Like they failed to achieve their goal, which is getting you to buy solar.
They failed with me. I made a clear statement. I said no. They moved on. They moved on to the next house.
That's a pretty poor salesman. I mean, in my opinion. I mean, I will probably, according to statistics as well, if, for example, it was anyone when I was a sales trader, if it was anyone who I was trading and they told me, hey, I knocked on this guy's door and he said, I'm not interested, and I moved on, I'd be like, what are you doing? Ask them a few times. Be like, okay, sir, well, what makes you not interested? Try to figure out their objections. Like, it sounds like that person just failed in their goal to sell you solar panels. So yeah, like maybe they were like, you might think they're more respectful than the other solar salesman that would try a few times, but so what? Like the goal is not to be the most respectful guy in the room. It's to be reasonably respectful, not be a complete dick, but also achieve your goal as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Asking twice doesn't hurt anyone else.
You say he failed, but he would have succeeded if I was interested. But I wasn't interested.
Well,
he didn't succeed with me. He could succeed for another person.
Right. I mean, you might not be a good candidate for solar. There might be, your roof might not be good for it. There's any number of reasons why solar might not work for you. That's fine. But he won't know if you were giving him a smoke screen or you legitimately are not interested, because he literally just gave up the first time you said no.
The same analogy would apply under these circumstances. You speak to someone, it's very clear they've already made their intentions very clear. You may not succeed with them. All right, fine. Move on to the next person. Who knows? You might succeed with them. You don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. You do move on to the next person, but trying twice is not a big deal. It takes you 2 seconds to send another text. Like, it doesn't hurt the girl, it doesn't hurt you. No one loses, but you increase your success rate. I'm not saying hit up the girl 100 times until she blocks you or call the police. I'm saying hit her up twice. Try one more time. And I've shown example after example of that working. The girl says, oh, no, the first time you try, a second time, you present it a little differently, and then she agrees. No, who gets hurt in that example?
At the end of the day, they still made their clear decision.
You keep going back to that point.
They're still.
Okay, you keep going back to that. Okay, let me move on to the next point, because I think we kind of beat the manipulation one to death. Let me move on to the next one. So you say that I lack human decency, right? That's the argument you made in the video. So can you give me an example of how I lack human decency?
Like I said in the beginning, it's very, very simple. It's being a decent human being to respect someone's wishes, to respect their boundaries.
So,
and you can call it persistence, but it could be there's a fine line between being persistent and being pushy.
Sure.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, of course. But I'm not telling people to be pushy. I'm telling people to be persistent.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty sure, man. Yeah, pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm teaching. Yeah. I have a lot of girls on the podcast. I give a lot of feedback. So yeah, I severely doubt girls like Kezia Noble or Courtney Ryan or Marnie, your wing girl, like mainstream female dating coaches who have a big following, would want to do collabs with me if I was like pushy. And, like, yeah, that clearly would not happen. So pretty sure. I mean, like, look, you made a claim that I lack human decency. So, I'm trying to figure out how I lack human decency. Like, that's a pretty extreme claim to make, like with someone you disagree with. Like, you lack human decency. That's a pretty extreme statement. That basically means I'm a piece of shit. So is your claim that because I have content where I say you should double text a girl that I lack human decency?
If you're trying to wiggle your way around someone's comfort and around someone's boundaries, wouldn't you say that's being a dick?
No, I don't think hitting up a girl for the second time is being a dick. I think that's being persistent.
Honestly, I would read the room, to be honest with you. You might be reading the room in your comment section. I'm pretty sure they're going to agree with you, but we're living in a new year, my dude. We're living in 2022 nowadays, and a lot of times, a lot of things are starting to come out of the woodworks. There's a lot of violation of boundaries lately nowadays. Not a lot that we still need to continue to understand.
But what does any of that
Even
have
if it
to do with me?
Even texting twice lately nowadays, it's someone says someone's made their intentions clear. There's normally no convincing.
Well, clearly there is, because in the examples that I've shown, it clearly worked. So clearly you can't make the argument that it's, it's a waste of time or it doesn't work. You can make the argument that's unethical. But again, I'm going to restate the question. Do you think I lack human decency because I double text girls? You made the claim that I lack human decency. That was you. So I want to figure out if you still believe that. Why do you feel that I lack human decency?
Would you like me to repeat myself?
No, I would like you to give me a clear answer on that, because you haven't explained it. You just said, oh, it's 2022, blah, blah, blah. But I don't understand what that has to do with you saying that I lack human decency.
I gave you plenty of examples previously in our previous arguments that we were beating around the bush on violation of boundaries, a whole 9 yards.
You really have not. You really have not.
Justify it all you.
Go ahead.
You can justify it all you want, but when someone says no and you still try to wiggle around and try to even say to yes, even if it's a second time, even though they've clearly made the point go across the first time, are you being persistent at that point, or are you being incompetent?
No. Well, incompetent implies that it's ineffective, inefficient. So no, clearly I'm being competent because I've shown examples of that working. Like, how can you argue that's incompetent if it works? Something can't be incompetent and work at the same time. You can argue that's unethical, but how are you going to argue that's incompetent?
Again, like I said from the get-go, someone has said no. Did you hear them the first time?
Okay, my dude, let's just go back to this. You said it's incompetent. So how can it be incompetent and effective at the same time?
Like I said from the get-go, someone says no. You try to quote unquote convince them or be persistent.
Yes, once.
They made their answer clear the first time.
I understand that part.
Let me rephrase the incompetent part. I'm unintelligent.
Okay, so you're saying it's dumb. That's what unintelligence means. It's dumb, right?
That's what a lot of these people are going to be asking.
Who are the people? Who are the people that you're talking about?
Literally, quite a few different people, quite a few different women.
Who are you talking? Are you talking about the girls that I'm texting? Who are you talking about? I'm like kind of confused right now. Like, which girls are you talking about?
Literally anybody. Nice husky, by the way.
Thank you.
Anyways,
Anybody? Well, no, I mean, not anybody, because all the girls I've had on my podcast and my girlfriend don't think there's anything wrong with that. So it's not anybody. So who?
I would say roughly about 90% of the female population.
Okay, so
maybe 95.
Okay, so you think 95% of the female population would find me texting a girl twice problematic?
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay.
Normally, they usually say that nowadays because they just want to get this person to stop asking so many times. Wouldn't you say?
Would I say what? Would they what? Say that again?
When you say they're just trying to humor you just so that way they can just get the person to shut up.
Who are we talking about now?
We're talking about this. We're talking about when some person is texting some woman, being persistent and all this stuff. Let's say you're trying to get someone's number, the whole 9 yards. Wouldn't you say that they just pander and then just cave in because they just want the person to shut up?
No, I don't think girls go on dates with guys just to get them to shut up. I think for a girl to go on a date with a guy, she has to be legitimately interested. So I don't think that's going to get you far. A girl just wanting you to shut up. Like, no girls like, yeah, I just went on a date with this guy because I want him to shut up. That like rarely happens.
You say rarely, but
go ahead.
You say rarely, but how rarely? Because normally people are usually afraid to speak out.
I've never had an example of a girl tell me that she went out with me because she wanted to placate me. I mean, I think that's pretty weird for anyone to do that. Like, that just wouldn't happen. I feel like we're also going like a complete side tangent. I want to get back to like the human decency. Like, again, you made the claim that I lack human decency. And if you're willing to walk that back and say, hey, I no longer feel that way, then I won't hold you to that. We can move on to the next point. But if you're still claiming I lack human decency, then I would like a concrete example of how I lack human decency. So far, you've told me that I double texted a girl and that might violate her boundaries. That's fine. But are you then claiming that because of that I lack human decency? Or are you going to walk that claim back?
No, I'm not walking anything back.
Okay, so your claim. So okay, go ahead.
If you're violating someone's boundaries, that would be a lack of human decency, wouldn't you say?
Not necessarily. It depends on how bad you're violating someone's boundaries. If you're texting them twice, I wouldn't say, "Oh, you lack human decency because you violate." Like, if that salesperson asks you a few times, "Hey, man, are you sure?" Blah blah blah. I wouldn't say they lack human decency. I would just say they might be annoying or persistent. So no, I don't think just because you like, let's take your example, the solar salesperson, you said no, and let's say they tried a few more times. I wouldn't then go ahead and say, oh, they lack human decency because they were persistent in trying to sell you solar panels.
I'm telling you right now, 11:02.
So yeah, so that's the answer to that question. I mean, I think it's a pretty big statement to say to someone that they lack human decency. When you say that's a pretty extreme statement based on literally like the fact that you saw a video of them like double texting another person.
What makes you think it's not a lack of human decency?
What makes me think it's not a lack of human decency? Because 95% of human beings would not find that as problematic, because I don't find it as problematic, because most reasonable people would not find it as problematic, because you're not actually hurting anyone. You're not actually harming anyone. You're not actually doing anything wrong. You might be being a little annoying, but that's about the extent of it.
What time is it right now? 11:03? All right. So honestly, I don't think we're really going to be getting anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean this in the nicest way, but I feel like we're kind of going in circles. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, I feel like
we are totally going in circles.
I feel like, okay, here's my claim. I feel like you don't truly believe in some of the stuff you're saying. I feel like you're kind of tied to an ideological position now, which, is understandable, but it kind of seems like you don't have like concrete examples for a lot of the points I'm bringing. So I think like, I don't know, if I was you, I would just walk back some of these claims. You can make the claim that I violate people's boundaries in some way, and that would be a reasonable claim. But to claim that I manipulate people, that I lack human decency, that's like you haven't been able to show that at all.
Like I said from the beginning, what was my definition for manipulation according to the Cambridge Dictionary?
Yeah, we agree on the definition, you and I.
Yeah, that does fall under some of the stuff that I've seen lately, and not just TikTok. I'm talking about YouTube as well.
No, you were talking a lot about violation of boundaries, but that has nothing to do with the definition of manipulation. Again, manipulation is controlling and harmful behaviors, and you haven't shown how my behaviors are harmful in anyone. You made the point that they could.
If you're manipulating,
go ahead.
If you are manipulating, if you are saying things to get what you want, that's manipulation. That's a violation of boundaries.
Say that again, one more time.
I said if you're using certain things or saying certain things to get what you want, that's manipulation.
If
that's
you're
a violation of a boundary.
If you're saying certain things to get what you want,
if you're trying to word your way, you seem to have a way with words.
I am pretty good with words, yes. But being articulate and phrasing things in a strategic way, that's not manipulation. That's just called being tactful. Manipulation.
But I thought you said this wasn't tact anyway. I thought you said this wasn't tact from earlier.
What wasn't tact? No, I make no qualms about the fact that. I
said earlier that this wasn't tactics.
No, I said that the fact that me telling the girl that I don't like to talk on Instagram, that wasn't a tactic. But yeah, I make no qualms about the fact that I teach a lot of tactics and strategies. Of course, that's like pretty obvious. I teach a lot of tactics and strategies. But tactics and strategies in and of themselves is not a bad thing. I think strategies are good. If you're starting a business, you want a good strategy. If you're trying to pursue relationships, you want a good strategy. If you're trying to be a good salesman, you want to pursue good strategy. So just because I teach tactics and strategy in of itself is not a bad thing at all. That's not manipulation. That's just a tactic and strategy.
And trust me, from experience, that is manipulation.
But your argument is like, bro, trust me. Like, that's not a convincing argument. Like
yeah.
But then
I know. I'm well aware.
And then I could be like, bro, trust me, it's not. And then like that doesn't work. I don't know, bro. I feel like you're more or less like, I think you're kind of coming around to like my view, but you kind of feel like you're ideologically sort of stuck. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I guess my question would be like, why do you feel like you're so ideologically tied to like the TikTok culture with that? Like, what's in it for you, I guess is my question. Like, why do you feel so compelled to like, I don't know, just to defend this culture where everyone's a misogynist, everyone's a rapist, whatnot?
I never said that everybody's a misogynist or a rapist.
No, you definitely did not say that. I'm saying that's the culture. That's kind of like the culture that you're defending.
You know why people say all men?
It's a talking point. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you know why people say all men?
No, man. Tell me.
People are well aware that it's not all men. But how many speak out and actually hold each other accountable?
I see your point, and I agree with you that we should hold other men accountable. Look, if there was someone on YouTube or on TikTok telling, men to harass women or to grape them or do anything like that, I would speak out just as much as you do. Probably, equally as much. I agree with you. That's fucked up, right? But I think that when you call someone like me, who's just teaching dating strategies that may be a little, I don't know, unorthodox or whatever, but certainly according to pretty much any reasonable standard, they're certainly not illegal. They're certainly not, like pushing the boundaries to an extreme amount. Telling a girl, guys, text them twice, not an insane amount of times. Like calling someone like me, and I'm not saying you did this, but saying, oh, you lack, actually you did. You say like, oh, that's manipulation. Well, that's kind of doing a disservice to the women who've actually been manipulated by dudes who are like actually doing shit like hitting them up 100 times and like actually doing like gaslighting and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like watering it down. That's kind of like if a chick calls someone a rapist who literally just like, I don't know, like fucking like ask her twice when to have sex, right? Like you're kind of doing a disservice to like actual people who suffered with that. So I agree that you should stand up for injustice. When it's something like, when men are just going crazy and like doing harassing, but that's not what's going on here. Like there's no element of that going on my page.
Are you sure you're not currently gaslighting the situation right now?
No, I'm not. I mean, can you explain to me how I am?
You said earlier that I was on the verge of siding with you.
I feel like you're a little torn. I think part of you, because you seem really stumped by some of the points I make and you like have to take time and shit. So it seems like you're kind of like, you want to agree with me, but you feel like you can't.
No, that's the Asperger's talking. Takes a little bit to come up with a good answer for you.
Yeah, maybe I misread you. Maybe, I don't know. Those kind of my impression. But either way, I still think that what's it called? That like, I don't know. I just don't see why you are so on this like TikTok SJW like team or whatever. It just doesn't really make sense to me.
Because I've been around way too many people that's been hurt way too many times.
Right, but do you think?
See, I'm not much of an advocate for quote unquote social justice. I'm more of a mental health advocate. But my question is, what's your motive?
Well, I'm a dating coach. I teach men how to have better sex and dating lives. My motive is, why do I do it? I mean, I don't know, because I struggled with that when I was younger, because it's something I'm passionate about, because I've helped hundreds, if not thousands of guys, maybe tens of thousands, because I enjoy making content. I mean, there's many reasons why I do what I do.
But you did say that you had struggled with it when you were younger.
Yeah, sure. I talked about that publicly in many videos.
Yeah. So that's what started it.
That's what motivated me. Yeah, that was definitely a big part of my motivation. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty public about that. How's that gaslighting though?
I'm saying, are you currently gaslighting this conversation, this debate right now at this very moment?
No. Can you explain to me how I am?
Because at this very moment, I know you're trying to convince me that you're right and I'm wrong.
No, I am not trying to convince you. I know I will never convince you. I am trying to have a good debate for the audience. I'm trying to convince the audience. I have no delusions that I'm going to convince you of anything.
Yeah, I know. And it's a big chance I'm not going to convince your audience either. Right now, we are currently going around in circles.
I mean, if you make a very persuasive argument, maybe. Like if you could be like, look, man, I saw in your video you did this. This fits the textbook definition of manipulation. That's manipulation. I think that could be a persuasive argument. My audience doesn't always side with me. I've had my audience side against me sometimes when I'm wrong.
But I've showed you, I've given you 2 examples. I can give you quite a few other examples I could give you quite a few other examples if you wish. Always still have a little bit of time because I do have something at 11:30.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you've given examples of me violating boundaries, but you haven't given me examples of manipulation or me being a shitty human being. Well, you haven't given me an example.
If you're violating someone's boundaries, that is being a shitty human being. It's pretty common sense.
I would completely disagree with that. It's a matter of what extent. In the example I gave you, you said no, and I asked you twice to go out with me. That's not me being a shitty human being. That's just me being persistent. So no, you can violate people's boundaries a little bit and not be a shitty human being. It's the matter in which way you do it and how far you go.
It still is a pretty shitty thing. Wouldn't you agree?
In which example? Where I said, "Hey man, let's go out," and you said no, and I'm like, "Come on, dude, we can, whatever, we'll have you home soon," or something like that. Yeah, I don't think that's a shitty thing to do. I mean, is your argument that's someone who's a shitty human being?
You are current. The argument was about violating boundaries.
Yeah.
Was it not?
Yeah. So that's an example of me violating your boundaries, right? I asked you to go out. You said no. I asked the second time. I violated your boundary, but does that make me a shitty human being because I did that?
Again, we're comparing apples to oranges because in this hypothetical scenario, we're friends, so you would already know when I say no, no means no.
Okay, the solar salesman comes to your house. You say, "I'm not interested in solar." He says, "Oh, come on, man. Have you ever looked into it?" You say no. A second time, he leaves. Is he a shitty human being? He doesn't know you. He doesn't know anything about you. Is he a shitty human being? He violated your boundaries the first time you said no. He tried again.
Any good salesman also respects a person's wishes, do they not?
Any good salesman is definitely persistent. I mean, like, I don't know why you can't answer that question. Like, in that example, I gave you an example. That solar salesman, he tries a second time. Is he a shitting human being because he violated your boundary once?
And I've said it time and time and time again, my dude.
You're not answering the question directly, though.
When you are speaking to someone, you're trying to get in someone, when you're trying to get in touch with someone like that. But yeah, it would be violation. It would be violating. It would be a shitty thing to do. It is unethical.
Okay. So there we go. That's a clear answer. Okay. I mean, we have completely different ethics then. I would say that me and pretty much 99% of people wouldn't call that solar salesman a shitty person because he asked you twice. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion, I guess. But I mean, at that point, we just have completely different ethics. I don't think you're a shitty person if you're a salesperson and you rang on someone's doorbell, they said no, and you tried a second time and then they said no. I don't think that makes you a shitty person. Just like I don't think it makes you a shitty person if you asked a girl out, she said no, and you asked her out a second time, or she said she doesn't want to give you her number, and you basically said, "Oh, well, if you don't like it, you can block me," and then you tried a second time. Like, I don't think that makes you a shitty person. You do. I mean, I guess we disagree on that.
Are we comparing apples to oranges again?
What I'm doing is I'm dismantling your logical argument that violating someone's boundaries in of itself makes you a shitty person. You're saying it does. I'm saying it does not. I'm giving you counter examples, like with the solar salesman example, how it does not make you a shitty person. Now, if according to your ethics, that solar salesman,
again, we are still comparing apples to oranges, are we not?
We are comparing apples to oranges, but your statement was that the act of violating someone's boundaries makes you a shitty person. You have shown, okay. And I have given a counter example of that with my example. So I'm making the argument that your logic is flawed because violating someone's boundaries does not necessarily make you a shitty human being. It's the extent to which you violate their boundaries, and it's the manner in which you do it. Asking someone the same question twice, while it may technically be a violation of boundaries, does not make you a shitty human being, according to my ethics and the ethics of like 95% of human beings.
So at this point, what are we doing?
Let me ask this question. Yeah, we can call it, but if a girl, okay, someone has this question. I think it's a fair question. If a girl asks you out twice, like, I don't know, like whatever, assuming you're single, if a girl says, hey, you want to go out with me? And you're like, I don't know. And she asks you out a second time. Is she violating your boundaries at that point?
Did I say I don't know, or did I say no?
Let's say you said no.
Then yes, she is.
Okay. Would you say that makes her a shitty person then?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. We just got to completely agree to disagree on that. I would not say that makes her a shitty person. I would say that makes her needy, maybe, sure, but not a shitty human being. I mean, that's just like pretty extreme. I mean, according to that logic, like 99% of people would be shitty human beings because I think when we want something, we all can be a little persistent and a little needy. Like my girl, for example, me and my girlfriend, we hang out. Like when she wants something, hey, babe, can we cuddle? I'm like, oh, I don't feel like it right now. She'll ask me like 20 times, and finally I'll give in. I don't think she's a shitty human being for doing that. I just think at that moment she wants a good cuddle. I'm trying to convince my tech guy to get a video done by Friday night. He's like, oh, dude, come on, man. I want to go out. I'm like, come on, bro. Please, let's get this video done. I ask him 5 times. Eventually, he's like, all right, fine, man. I'll get it done. I don't think that makes me a shitty human being. My tech guy wants payouts a few days early. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I don't feel like going to the bank. He's like, come on, bro. Please.
We're comparing apples to oranges.
But those are all examples where a violation of boundaries does not make you a shitty human being.
We are comparing apples to oranges right now.
I understand we're comparing apples to oranges, but your statement was, again, just try to follow my logical train of thought. Your statement was violating someone's boundaries makes you a shitty human being. Not in this example, but just the general act of violating someone's boundaries.
We are talking, sir, Mr. Alex.
Yes.
We are talking about violating someone's consent when they have told you no in regards to, trying to quote unquote go out with them. We're not talking about all these other different things.
Okay. So now you're saying
we are comparing apples to oranges at this point. So when someone tells you no, the answer is no. We can both agree on that, and we can both agree that being extremely quote unquote pushy is pushing it a little bit too far. Wouldn't you say? We can agree on that.
Yeah, of course. We agree that being extremely pushy is a bad thing. We completely are in agreement on that. What I think we're not in agreement on is whether trying literally twice with a girl is, being extremely pushy or being a shitty human being, or that's just a simple matter of persistence. That's what I think we're disagreeing on.
The answer is very clear, and I've said it many times. No means no.
Well,
That's what it is at the end of the day, isn't it not?
Well, this comes down to a complete matter of opinion. In your opinion, that makes you a shitty human being if you ask a girl out twice. In my opinion, it does not. We both agree that in both of our opinions that asking, harassing a girl makes you a shitty human being. So there's no disagreement there. But what we're disagreeing on is closer to the middle, whether doing it twice makes you a shitty human being. You're saying yes, I'm saying no. We have a difference in opinion. I think that 95% of the world would agree with me on that. I mean, certainly every single chick I've ever had on my podcast agreed with me on that. But, you're entitled to your own opinion.
If someone says no and you ask it a second time, if someone says no and they've made it clear, that's literally your answer.
What? Say that again. What?
If someone's made it clear that no is the answer, that's your answer.
Well, clearly it's not the answer because there's examples of it working and no meaning yes. Look, I'm not saying guys should, if a girl, it depends on the context. Let's say you're trying to have sex with a girl and she says no. Well, at that point, yeah, it can be a little weird or manipulative to try a second time. At that point, you probably should take no for an answer. But if it's something like getting her phone number, I don't see the harm in trying a second time. No. Yeah. In that case, no does not necessarily mean no. Now, look, if she says no a second time.
Trying to wiggle your way around it, but trying to wiggle your way around to get what you want, that's
basic persistence.
That is a violation of privacy.
Okay, but that's
not privacy. That is a violation of boundary.
Yes, it is.
Sorry. I am really tired.
Yeah, you're good.
Getting to that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. It is a violation of boundaries, sure. But the argument I'm making is violating someone's boundaries isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Doesn't necessarily make you a human being, a shitty human being. Doesn't necessarily make you manipulative. It's the matter to which you violate their boundaries and in the matter in which you do it. If a girl says, "Oh, I don't want to give you my number," and you're like, "Why, you fucking bitch? Come on, you're on a dating app." Yeah, that's a really shitty thing to do if you're doing it like that. But if you're giving her a positive, logical reason, like, "Oh, well, if you really don't like me, you can block me." I don't see that as a bad thing. What's the harm in that? You're not shaming her. You're not berating her into doing it. You're simply giving her logical reason, and she can accept that reason, or she can deny that reason, like an adult. That's her decision at that point to make that choice. You want to make the argument.
At the same time, you also get. But at the same time, you also gave people an example of what to do if they block you too. So
I do, yeah. So if the girl blocks you, I say in the video, hit her up from a different number and try one more time.
But who's to say they won't block? Who's to say they won't block you if you don't like them? Who's to say they won't block a certain individual if they don't like them, and then they try to go into someone else? They try to get to someone else's number even after they said, "Hey, if you don't like me, you can block me." Who's to say they won't do that?
Who's to say? Oh, so you're saying if they combine? I mean, that would be kind of weird to combine both of those things because at that point you're like directly, literally critiquing yourself. So that'd be like really weird to combine both of those tactics. I think like common sense tells you not to combine those because you're basically directly contradicting what you said earlier, which I think is going to fuck you over. So I don't know. I guess common sense probably tells you not to combine both of those techniques.
And like I said, here's also your other common sense. If someone's made something very clear, you respect those wishes. If you want to build someone's trust, you don't try to word your way into getting what you want. If you want to build someone's trust, you don't do that.
Well, no, it's not common sense to give up at the first time the girl says that she's not interested. I wouldn't say that's common sense. You can make the argument that it's needy, it's annoying, but why is it common sense? If it works, if all you have to do is spend 10 seconds sending one more text, like literally 10 seconds out of your life, it doesn't harm her in any way, then who's the loser in that situation? It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt her.
You simply move on. It's very simple.
You can, or you can hit her up one more time.
Or you could just move on.
You could.
It's very simple. It takes 10 seconds to move on as well, doesn't it?
But what's the advantage of moving on? It takes 10. You've already been talking to her for, let's just say, several hours. It costs you another 10 seconds to send her a text. Let's say it has a 30% success rate. Why would you not do that?
Again, you still move on. It's like I said, it's very simple.
Well, no, that's what you would do. You would move on, but it's not common sense.
Or let me rephrase that. A decent human being would move on.
Okay, so there we go. So then that means the argument is that if you follow up with a girl a second time, you're a shitty human being.
Oh, no. I think you're trying to misword.
You're saying I'm really not. You're saying you're saying that a decent human being would move on.
Yeah.
So that implies that a shitty human being would keep trying. What's the opposite of a decent human being? A shitty human being.
Yeah, it is.
So, thus, my logic is correct. You would be a shitty human being. If you're a shitty human being, you would try a second time. Just admit that. That's what you're saying. You're a shitty human being if you try again.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's your position. Okay. I mean,
Are
again,
we done?
Bro, you're welcome to leave at any time, but like if you're gonna stay on, I'm gonna like keep pressing this point because I think it's a really ridiculous point that you're a shitty human being. If you try a second time, like that's a pretty bizarre argument.
If someone says no, they mean no. Leave it at that. Move on. It's very, very simple.
That's not like a logical argument. You're just giving like your opinion on like proper dating etiquette. Like that I could just say, bro, it's common sense. Just try a second time. Like neither one of those is a persuasive argument.
We can agree to disagree. It is actually getting pretty late over here on this end.
Okay. Yeah, man. Sure. Well, I will say this. I appreciate you coming on. I think you're the only one at TikTok who has the balls to do it. Pretty much everyone's just limiting to talking shit in the comments and they don't come on. So I'll give you full props for that.
Or you were ignoring them later.
Ignore what? That was pretty funny. I feel like we were going in circles. It's like, oh shit, it's getting late. No, I mean, that was interesting. We were kind of going circles. Like, I feel like he just could not answer that question. But I will give him props for coming on. I mean, he's like the best that TikTok has to offer because the other ones wouldn't even come on. They would just make excuses and they would bitch out and I would say like, oh, this is being public. But I think Alex 1, TikTok 0. Yeah, that was interesting. Okay. Does anyone else wants to debate? Someone says Q2 wants to come on. Okay. Yeah, we can have him on. What so it says should have been a lot less respectful. No, like he was respectful to me, so I'm gonna be respectful to him. If you're still down to do a debate, Q2 wants to come on. Okay, yeah. Let's have Q2 on. So, okay, let me send the link. Hang on a second. I'm going to get the StreamYard link. 1 second. So it says, Alex, check your email. Okay, I'm just going to post the link here. I don't feel like going through email. Q2, when you come on, label yourself as Q2 so I know it's you. That was an interesting debate. I sort of want to, like, I don't know, maybe like start a new stream because I feel like this should be a stream in of itself. I don't know. He's going to be up all night. I give him credit, though I just found out I'm a shitty human today. Yeah, no, I agree. I give him full credit. Like he was respectful. Yeah, he was respectful, but you know, he had some very strong logical fallacies. And I feel like he felt like he was ideologically stuck. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it would just make more sense for him to just be like, you know what, man, you're right. You're not a shitty human being. You just have a different dating strategy than me. Like, I don't know. But people feel like sometimes so ideologically stuck that they're like, you saw this happen when I was debating Donovan, like when I was breaking down his logic. He was like, everything you're, oh, actually, you saw this with a QB debate. He's like, everything you're saying makes sense, but I disagree. It's kind of like that type of thing. Okay, let's have Q2 on. Let's do this. And
Hello.
Yeah.
What's up?
Man, what do you have going on here? Like hiding half your face?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if like my job will like that I'm on, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can turn your camera on if you want.
Oh, all right. No, I'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Let me fix my stream. Hang on 1 second. Let me put myself back on here. So 1 second. I'm gonna fix my stream.
I just want to say I was trying to debate or come from the perspective of a woman in the comments. I'm not actually a woman. It was just I was probably misunderstanding that happened in the comments. I just want to say that real quick.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, fuck. It's not letting me show my camera. That's weird. Can everyone in the comments let me know that they can hear me? We'll just do this without the camera, because otherwise I have to reset this whole thing, and that would suck. Okay, you guys can hear me. Okay, cool. Yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to do it without the camera because we had to, because he didn't want to come on and do on StreamYard, so he wanted to do it through Zoom. So I had to fucking spend 2 hours today setting this shit up and fucking buy some software for $100 so that I can mirror my Zoom onto StreamYard. Like, this was a fucking complex endeavor to set this up. Yeah, so I do this for you guys. All right, cool. Q2. So tell me your disagreements with me. Go ahead.
No, my main disagreements, and I'm coming from the perspective of like, you know, the blue pill SJW types, is like a lot of what you were saying was, I think what the other guy was trying to get at too is like the actions, yes, aren't so bad, but it's more of the attitude around consent that was troubling. In my opinion, it's trouble. It's like, it's questionable, the attitude around what a no meaning a no meaning a no and a maybe meaning a no, like all that stuff. It was just questionable and deserves scrutiny. To me, like double texting, like it has the attitude of, well, this can be moved around a little bit. This boundary can be pushed to the side a little bit, and that's okay. And I guess my thing is I don't like I don't like that mindset. Not necessarily like, for example, if like you ask somebody to move, like if you're in line and you ask somebody to move over or something like that twice because they didn't hear you, I think that's, you know, pretty harmless. But like when it comes to dating relationships and because of the past things that have happened with women and all women and men, it's questionable to constantly like move those boundaries or move the goalposts, and all that stuff when it comes to sex.
I agree with you. It is questionable to manipulate your way into having sex. Yes, but what does that have to do with my content? Because I don't teach that.
Well, to me, okay, so I completely disagree with the what is it? texting from a blocked number thing, to me, that's manipulative because they blocked your number for a reason. Whatever that reason isn't you don't need to know that reason. That they blocked you for a reason, and to me, it's better to just move on and go try to find somebody else than try to figure out the reason that you were blocked. It's kind of like let's say like a girl in high school didn't like you, like to try to ask your friend to get that's high school stuff. That's a little bit of a bad example, but it's kind of like that thing where it's like it doesn't matter what the reason is. It's just she blocked you, so she's trying to say no. It doesn't matter. Oh, my fault. You go.
So yeah, so what's the big deal with finding out the reason? I mean, you can make the argument that it's a waste of time. That's a different argument. But what's wrong with trying to find out that reason if you're so curious?
It's like it pushes some it's a little bit pushy. It's a little bit manipulative. Like it. For the girl especially, she doesn't know when enough is enough. She doesn't know you enough personally to know that that's all you want. Like if like for example, most guys aren't like rapists or killers, but most girls don't want to take that chance with most guys because they don't know them. It's easier just to not take that chance. So they don't know that all you really want is the answer, because it's a pretty common thing to just say, yeah, no, just tell me why you don't like me. And then to go like, well, I still love you. I still miss you. And then, like that type of pressure and all that stuff. They don't know how many times you're going to persist. You have content that says, persist twice and all that stuff. That's cool. But you don't know who's taking in that content. And you also don't know what that girl has dealt with in the past. Because that could have been the same type of stuff that like a stalker said to them, but they ended up being a stalker. Like you just don't know that. And that's why with strangers, it's not worth it to, in my opinion, text somebody from a blocked number, text somebody's friend or something like that.
Well, you're not a stalker, right? Like, for example, when I'm double texting a girl, I know I'm not going to stalk her. I know I'm not going to hit her up 100 times. So she might not know that, but I know that. So again, let me re-ask the question. Given that fact, what's the problem with me if I want to find out the reason?
Yeah. What's the problem if you want to find the reason?
If I want to, if it's important
to me. Causing discomfort in a situation surrounding like dating, sex, stuff like that. Causing discomfort in dating and sex, which is very unpopular and frowned upon in today's dating world, to cause discomfort within people.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that, we cause discomfort in each other all the time. I mean, for example, when I was debating this person, I'm sure it caused massive amounts of discomfort in his set of beliefs, right? But that was necessary for the set of debate, for the set of, putting on a good stream. If I was now willing to cause any level of discomfort in him, then this debate would have been really, really boring. It would just been me agreeing with everything he says. So, causing discomfort in of itself is not always a bad thing. But okay, you're saying that the girl, that causes discomfort. How much discomfort do you think it causes for you to text her once from a different number and say, hey, send her a very nice message, say, hey, I'm still interested, just curious why you didn't want to hit her up? Like, do you think that causes a mass amounts of discomfort, or do you think that's like extremely insignificant, if any?
I mean, I'm kind of cheating with an example from my own personal experience, because like I'm trying to be blue pill and all that stuff. But from my experience, I literally tried to talk to a girl on the ferry, and I was just like, I sat down, I think in front of her, or like a diagonal, something like that. And like the seats were like maybe 2 feet apart. And I was just like, hi, how you doing? Or something like that. I just said, hey, what's up? And then I was like, and then she just ignored me, and I was like, what's wrong? What's the matter? Something like that. I didn't say it exactly like that. Obviously, I said it probably something more witty, but you're correct. I did end up still having a conversation with her. That did work. Okay. But I found out she actually had a stalker that would send people to her to try to figure out where she lived and all that stuff. So that's what her discomfort was, and that's what happened. And I didn't know that. That's an extreme example, of course, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, so what happened? Was I going to sleep with her? Maybe if I had, but you could say if I had better game, if I was a different person, sure, but like I just re-triggered a victim of stalking so I could maybe get laid. To me, like, or to like that's not really, is that
But
really
that's
worth
not
it?
the thing is Q2. That's not your responsibility. That's her inner trauma that she's carrying that she needs to work on. It's not your responsibility to know every single girl who's had a stalker. There's no way you could possibly have known that. So it's your responsibility not to stalk her. Yes, if you're the one or you're sending your friends, I would say you're a piece of shit, right? Because you are actually causing her massive amounts of discomfort. That guy who's doing that is a massive piece of shit, but you're not. You didn't know. You have no way of knowing. It's not your responsibility to know.
Well, I think the issue is like, as men, we have to hold each other accountable. How do I say it? Like, we have to. It's probably not saying the right words, but like assume the worst, or assume that maybe something traumatic has happened in their life and that it might not be the best thing to persist or pursue simply because something.
But that's not a really good mindset for men to have, just assuming the worst. I mean, that's what some men tend to do, and that leads to them getting rejected. You don't want to assume the worst when you approach a girl. You want to assume the best, and then you recalibrate if you find something out. Look, if you approach a girl and she says, "Hey, listen, I don't want to talk to you. I'm dealing with a stalker situation," then yeah, that changes your perspective. But why would you go into that interaction assuming that? Why would you assume the worst?
Assuming the worst, or assuming that stuff has happened, is, in a way, it's kind of like, it should make you more sensitive and not be as, the goal of it, at least, is to not be as manipulative, pushy, aggressive in certain ways when it comes to sex, because you don't know what somebody's been through. It's kind of like saying, like, you don't like, it's like kind of like when you make an edgy joke, like you don't want to necessarily say like something that you think is funny, but like that can trigger somebody really bad. You always want to be sensitive, and when it comes to sex, at least, you want to, like I said, assume the worst, or just assume that you don't know what somebody's been through. Like, you could say it's different for comedy, or if it's different for like let's say a friend, and you make a joke about like somebody's grandma, and the grandma just died. You didn't know that, but that's a friend. You can kind of take that risk. Both a stranger and a woman, you should. The idea is you shouldn't be taking that big of a risk with women that you don't know and putting them in discomfort, because you're not the only guy that's going to be talking to her throughout her life. And to you, it might be just one girl that you talk to, maybe even if it's like a year or a month or something. Yeah. But to her, it might be an everyday thing, an every week thing, that discomfort, and that's discomfort. And the main thing is, women are just tired of dealing with that discomfort all the time, because it's constant over and over, not from one man usually, but from men in general.
Right, but there's a lot of things to dissect here. First of all, you're not taking any kind of a risk unless you're breaking the law. So the only way you're taking a risk is if you're actually doing something legal, like harassing her, stalking her, whatever. That is a risk. That's also unethical. So it's a risk and it's unethical. There's no risk involved in you asking out a girl twice. What's the risk in it for you? You can make the argument it's unethical, but what exactly is the risk in it for you to ask a girl out twice or to text her from a different number? What's the risk?
Okay, so asking her out twice, I'm not gonna lie, in a situation where you're not being filmed or anything like that, it really doesn't matter so much. I mean, the risk would be that you're causing her discomfort, causing another person discomfort, but to you personally, like, you can ask somebody 30 times. It's not really gonna, it shouldn't affect you. Maybe if you like just feel guilty about it in general, if you feel guilty about being pushy or in a certain way, if you have a weird thing that's inside you, yeah. But I don't even know. I think most people over 25 don't think it's that big of a risk, but like people under 25, kind of the younger generation, they would say being perceived in any sort of, even if it's something small, creepy, pushy, manipulative, being perceived in that way is a massive social risk and would get you made fun of. Well, not necessarily if you're not being recorded, but like just saying having that reputation in general would make you a kind of like a social pariah. People would make fun of you. People would go to people that are perceived as creepy and all that stuff.
I would argue that's exactly the kind of thinking and mindset I want guys to get out of, because that's the kind of mindset I used to have when I was younger. I used to think that everyone was thinking about what I was doing, everyone was judging me, and that would make me really self-conscious. And then when I got older, I realized that no one gives a fuck. No one's actually thinking. No one cares about you, with the exception of your friends and family. And when I made that mindset shift, I became a lot happier. I became a lot more successful with girls. I became a lot more successful in my relationships because I realized that no one gives a shit. So one of the big goals I have with this channel is to get people out of that mindset of thinking that, oh my God, the world's going to end if I get rejected. Like, that's not really true. And that mindset is detrimental for young men.
Well, yeah, no, I agree that like the feeling should maybe go away, but there are more risks nowadays, especially for young men, than there were.
What's the risk? What exactly is the risk?
Well, it's again an extreme example, but there's been times, especially on TikTok, where a woman has recorded a man for having a basic conversation, and the video, all it says pretty much is, this guy's not getting the hint. That's literally it. But on TikTok, they shamed that man for it because he was talking to like a worker at Starbucks or something like that, and he didn't get the hint. So it's an extreme example, but it is more of a risk than I think.
It sounds like that guy lacked social calibration. He wasn't be able to pick up on her social cues, right? That's kind of what that sounds like.
Okay.
Right? I didn't see the video, so I'm asking.
No, it was yeah, pretty much it was that. But what I'm saying is that getting blocked is a social cue to say that I don't want to talk to you. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it can be sometimes. Sometimes it's not. Like in the examples I've shown, clearly the girl just got cold feet. We have to acknowledge that sometimes girls just get a little nervous and they overreact and they block the guy. And then, if you try again, they change their mind, right? And they girls act very impulsively quite often. So do men, but women do it a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, sometimes sometimes it's a hint. Sometimes it doesn't mean shit.
I mean, but to get getting blocked doesn't mean anything. I think that's like, I mean, it's better. Is it better to assume that doesn't mean anything? Like overall, like percentage wise, like does it like is it worth more than 50%? Is it generally a hint that they don't want to talk to you?
There's two ways to look at it. For your own mental well-being, your own happiness, your own success, it is definitely much better to not assume the worst, to actually assume that it doesn't mean anything and only calibrate when given otherwise information. I guess you can make the argument for the well-being of women overall, or not for their well-being, but for their like mental comfort. Maybe it would make sense for guys to think otherwise. I don't know, but I'm not looking at it through the perspective of like the world as a whole. I'm looking at it through my perspective. Like, would you agree that there's a reasonable middle ground? Like we have to balance achieving our goals while still being ethical humans, right? So for example, my goal might be to get sex, but like grape, that would be way outside of, that would be extremely unethical, right? Even though it's in line with my goals. So we would never condone that, right? Even it's also illegal. Let's take a less extreme example. Something like gaslighting a girl or shaming her into having sex. While that will achieve me my goal, that's very unethical, right? So we would not condone that, even though that's not really technically illegal, right? So we have to balance achieving our goals with being ethical human beings. But I don't see how hitting up a girl once from a different number makes you unethical. That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh no, like okay, so hitting up a girl from a block number is unethical. Well, I mean, you have a different background. Like, one, you're a male. Two, you're a male that believes in pursuing women, and you understand that it's a numbers game and all that stuff. Two and three, you're in sales. So, like, I think I think even like if I got off this chat and tried to text the Playing with Fire email or something like that, like, hey, Alex, want to debate again? And you just weren't into it. And then I was like, oh, come on, man, you want to debate again? Come on, let's do it. Even if I did that to you, you'd still probably just be like, it's not a big deal. You wouldn't care. But that's your experience as a man that was in sales or is in sales.
Yeah, well, I would just think you're being bizarre. I mean, dude, I have people like, I mean, I see like a different side of this. I have dudes in my DMs who will hit me up 100 times and they'll be like, come on, bro, tell me what to say next. I'll be like, yo, man, make a post in the forums. Come on, man. And they'll like literally barrage my DMs over and over again, like 100 times. So, you know, it doesn't like offend me. I just think they're weird and they can't take a hint. So yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, your perspective comes from your experiences and all that stuff.
Right.
A lot of women's perspective isn't that. Well, look, can we say like 90% of the time it is just like if a guy double texts or texts from a blocked number, all that stuff, they're just being weird and annoying or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but that 10%, there is bad stuff in that. There is the rapists in that. There is the murderers in that. There is the stalkers in that and all that stuff. Though that small percentage is like that. There's a percentage of death and stuff like that in there.
But the thing is that I know for a fact I'm not a rapist or a murderess. So there's a 0% chance that I'm gonna rape or murder the girl, right? So I don't see how I'm increasing her risk by doing that because I know I'm not one of those.
Logically, yes. Emotionally, you're still increasing the risk just because you're a man. And it's sexist, of course, but it is what it is. Like, a lot of women don't trust.
Are you saying I'm increasing her overall risk of being murdered?
No, I'm saying that in her mind, emotionally, yes, you are. Emotionally, to her, not logically, emotionally, you're increasing that risk to her.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Yeah, but I think you might be right about that. But I think that in of itself is not compelling enough argument for me. Like, you know, if you go to the police and you say, hey, officer, I feel like Alex robbed me. And like, okay, well, you know, when did they rob you? Well, I don't know, but it's a feeling I have. Like, they would laugh at you, right? Like, because that didn't happen. So just because emotionally, you know, they have a weird reaction due to their own past trauma, I mean, I might be conscious of that, but I'm not going to be like base my whole actions around the small possibility that the girl has some unresolved trauma and that might trigger something on her. That wouldn't be a reasonable way for me to live. Like, that would be like, okay, like some people are afraid of dogs, but I'm not going to like not walk my dog because there's a possibility that I might encounter someone who had a bad experience with a Siberian Husky. That wouldn't be a reasonable way for me to live my life, just to like not walk my dog or only walk him at like 5 a.m. when there's no one there because I'm worried about potentially triggering some unresolved trauma in a human being. All I know is my dog is not going to bite someone. I'm responsible for that. If my dog bites someone, I am responsible for that. But I know that my dog is not going to bite someone, and I can't be held responsible. Like, would you agree with me on that? Like, it would be unreasonable for me to be held responsible for someone's unresolved trauma around dogs?
Well, I mean, I assume that you probably do. You probably don't let your dog just jump on everybody, even though you know your dog doesn't bite people. Like, I see a lot of dog owners all the time. They're like, even if the dog really just loves me and I'm putting my like not if I'm putting my hand out, but like I'm just standing there and I really want to, you know, pet the dog or something like that. They'll be like, no. Like, they'll pull the dog back a little bit because they don't know that I like dogs. Maybe if they read really into me and all that stuff, they would know, but they don't know if I like dogs. So they're going to keep them away from me.
I don't do that. No, if someone puts their hand out, I'll let my dog play with them because I know my dog's not going to bite anyone.
Okay. I'm saying, but my experience. My experience, dog
some people are like super careful, I guess, but I'm not worried. I mean, I know my dog is not going to bite anyone. It's never happened once. So I'm not worried. And I don't really, frankly, I may be empathetic to it. Like, if someone tells me, hey, man, whoa, can you keep your dog away? I have, you know, trauma. I'll respect that and I'll keep my dog away. But I'm not going to go into every interaction assuming that they have some unresolved trauma. That just wouldn't really be a reasonable way for me to live my life.
Well, okay. So I guess, yeah, all right. So let's go back to the texting example real quick. Like, if you're saying that it's like texting go from blocked number, let's say that takes 10 seconds to do that. It also takes 10 seconds not to do that. So how is it unreasonable?
Well, it takes 0 seconds not to do that. It doesn't take you any. So like, it doesn't take. It takes 0 seconds not to text someone.
Right. So like, why not just not text them? Why not just not text someone? How is that unreasonable? Just say, you know what? Just don't text her twice from a blocked number.
It's not unreasonable. It's just a different strategy. But, you know, there is a lot of credence to being a little bit persistent. Like I've seen this on my podcast. Like again, going back to the example I gave, that chick, the Sarah chick, the OnlyFans chick, she had a guy hit her up 50 times on Instagram before she responded. Now I would agree that's extremely excessive. I probably would not hit up a girl more than 2 or 3 times on Instagram. If she doesn't respond by the 3rd time, I just move on, right? But that guy hit her up 50 fucking times, and the 50th time she responded. So there's a lot of credence to being persistent, right? Now he's happy, she's happy, blah, blah, blah. Again, in my opinion, that's extremely excessive, but, there's a lot of, credence to doing that. So what's the harm in doing it? I guess missed opportunities.
Yeah, so what percentage is okay for you for a strategy to work? So let's say the texting thing, if it worked 5% of the time, would it be worth it to do that?
So now we're getting into more of effectiveness and efficiency, which is a completely different argument.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can answer that. It depends on how much work it takes. So that's a case by case basis. If it takes me 5 minutes, then the success rate would have to be much higher than if it takes me 5 seconds. But if it's something that takes me 5 seconds, a 10% success rate would be sufficient to me because it's such a low time investment. Again, it would also come on to a lot of factors, like right now, I haven't really been pursued girls hard in a while because I have a girlfriend now. I can't keep up with just all that shit. So nowadays I don't really pursue as hard. It just depends on what I have going on in my life. But yeah, if it's something that takes so little time and is not illegal, doesn't really hurt anyone, or at least won't hurt the vast majority of girls, then yeah, 10% would be fine by me. 20%, whatever. It doesn't have to be 100%, 90% success rate.
Gotcha. No, I gotcha. So 90% of the time you're okay with 90% of the time it not working out, or 90% of the time, even if it's slightly, you're causing discomfort, causing a little bit of stress, all that stuff. You're okay with that?
I don't think I think it only causes discomfort and stress to a very small percentage of girls who have a lot of trauma around stalkers. I think most girls would not feel discomfort by being texted literally once from a different number. I think most girls would just find that kind of funny or weird, but most girls would not be super triggered by that. We're not talking about sending death threats to girls or going to her house, showing up at a girl's house unannounced. Yeah, that will cause discomfort to a pretty significant portion of girls. Sending one message from a different number, no, I don't think it's going to cause discomfort to most girls. I'm not saying it won't cause discomfort to all girls. There's going to be some that might feel that way, but it won't be the majority. It'll be a small percentage.
So, and I kind of know the answer to this question. So, is the goal to not cause? Wait, how to say it? Is the goal to make the girls comfortable, or is the goal to get what you want?
Well, you have to. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. You have to balance both. You have to balance your achieving your goals while living life in an ethical way. If my goal is to fuck a girl, right? We can both agree that it would be very wrong for me to shame her into having sex with me. I'm achieving what I want, but I'm doing it in a very unethical way. Let's say my goal is to be a successful businessman. We would both agree that it would be very wrong for me to lie and scam to my customers, to say, hey guys, if you buy my product, there's 100% chance you will have a threesome within 7 days. That would be unethical. We can both agree on that, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's no way to answer that question because it's both. You're trying to balance both, right? But you can't live your life just solely trying to avoid causing pain in other people, because that's impossible, and 2, that's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to control your actions and your words, and it's their responsibility to deal with their unresolved trauma. You can be empathetic and sensitive to it, but you can't try to predict and preempt things that haven't happened yet. That's just pretty unreasonable way to live your life, given what I said in that dog example. It'd be pretty crazy for you to only walk your dog at 5 a.m. because you're worried about offending people who had bad experiences with dogs in the past.
No, I got you on that. I think there is more to be done I think the goal is basically to get men to do more to cause comfort and preempt and all that stuff. with all the stuff that's coming out. Like I think that's where we're like going to like I guess disagree like on what's better, because like you're kind of advocating what's better for the individual, the person, and I'm trying to advocate what's better for women as a whole. And I think I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, or like we have the same goal of
But you
making.
agree there has to be a reasonable middle ground. Like, would you say that would you completely avoid having sex for the rest of your life just to potentially prevent pain? Like, you wouldn't agree to that, right? So you agree there has to be a reasonable middle
There
ground.
are some people that do though. There's a bunch of people that say, look, I'm especially like in the black pill community, they say I'm ugly, hideous, girls don't want me. I'm not even gonna try to talk to them, and I'm just gonna do my own thing. And that's that. There are people that would say that, yeah, I don't want to cause discomfort by trying to talk to them, so I'm not gonna do it, and that's
Key
fine.
distinction, though, they don't want to cause discomfort in themselves by getting rejected, not discomfort in the girls. I don't think the black pillars are trying to be like really sympathetic to the girls. There's just more they're trying to avoid pain in themselves. So I think that's different.
Okay. I might misunderstood black pill then, because I thought the goal was like,
Nah,
hey,
they're
I'm too
trying
ugly
to
to
avoid
talk.
rejection, avoid pain because it's painful to get rejected. Everyone knows that. So yeah, like no, like they're not trying to like be super empathetic to the girls. But so, I mean, yeah, sure. Some people might live their life that way, and they just completely avoid girls because they don't want to take the chance of like offending or triggering them. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that's a pretty silly way to live your life. I think you can live your life and achieve what you want and do it in an ethical way. But yes, you are at some point likely to offend or trigger someone, and that's just you have to accept that. And as again, it's up to those people to fix their own inner traumas. I'm not responsible for that person walking down the street who had a bad experience with a dog 5 years ago.
Right.
Like that's
Okay.
not my responsibility. I may feel empathy at it, but it's not my responsibility. It's their responsibility to walk on that, to work on that trauma and get over it. Or if not, stay inside, or avoid going to places with dogs. It's not my responsibility to walk my dog at 5 a.m. Just like it's not my responsibility to know that a girl had a stalker, 3 years ago, and that that me just saying hi to her triggers her. That's not my responsibility. That's her responsibility to work on that. Or if she really does not want people to talk to her, then don't go outside. But but it is my responsibility to be respectful and not to, frankly, go too far. So again, you have to walk that middle ground, accomplishing your goals while at the same time doing it in an ethical way. But you can't go too far in extreme in one direction. If you go too far in the direction of accomplishing your goals, then you're going to cross people's boundaries. You're going to be a complete dickhead. You're going to be unethical, and you might potentially wind up in jail if you cross the legal, threshold. But if you go too far in the other direction, it's just as crazy. If you're so worried about potentially offending other people and potentially triggering them, and you try so hard to preempt them, you're never going to accomplish any of your goals, and you're just going to basically just be lonely, miserable, and unaccomplished for all your life because you're so worried about potentially offending or upsetting another person.
No, I think I agree with that. I just think that there is also like you talk about that middle ground. The middle ground for I'll say TikTokers, but the middle ground for TikTokers is let's hi, how you doing, or whatever it is, or let's go on a date. Probably not exactly those words, but if she says I'm not interested, or if she doesn't seem like she's talking, if she gives any little bit of resistance, then you disengage pretty much.
That's their perspective. It's a weird perspective, and I think it's not a perspective that most women share. Like again, I've had hundreds of girls on my podcast. Not one of them had that perspective. So it's a very, but yeah, that is their perspective. They think that the second the girl gives any kind of non-compliance, you should walk away. And I would say that's pretty unreasonable, and it's fairly ineffective as a guy for you to do that. Like I severely doubt any of those guys are like any of the male TikTok SJWs are like getting a lot of pussy or having, whatever, being successful with women.
Right.
I severely doubt that.
Well, I mean, is the goal like for everybody promiscuity? Do they have to just sleep with like a lot of girls to be successful in life?
No, not at all. The goal is to have the kind of sex and dating life that you want. If that involves being married, having a girlfriend, then that's accomplishing a goal. No, it's not. Not everyone has to fuck a lot of girls. It's just having the kind of sex and dating life that they want. But again, I would argue a lot of those TikTok SJWs don't have the kind of sex and dating life that they want.
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd have to see, because like some guys, it's like they stay in, like, they meet some girl in high school, and they might, again, like, they might, say hi or whatever, they might follow the rules, but it just might end up working for them. Like, it just, like, they just meet some girl, say hi, talk to them, or they make friends, and eventually they get married, and then they have sex with that one person, and that's their life, and they're happy with that, and they can't. It's like, to do anything extra outside of starting a basic conversation would be pushing it a little bit, and for them it worked out. So what's the issue if it worked out for them?
No, there's no issue in it at all. The issue is in them criticizing me for having a different strategy.
I see.
Yeah, there's no issue in me. They can live their life whichever way they want. They can give up before the girl, even before they even say hello. I have no issue with them doing whatever they want. It's just the issue is with them, making this disingenuous argument about my strategy and saying I'm a rapist or I'm a pedophile or I'm a whatever. I abuse women. That's problematic. If I wanted to be an asshole, I could sue them and I would possibly win. Because that's slander. Not like I'm going to do that. I don't give a shit. But yeah, so yeah, there's no issue in them doing what they want to do. The issue is in them being disingenuous when analyzing my strategies.
I see.
The guy before, he wouldn't say this. He kept tiptoeing around it, but he was basically arguing that I'm a shitty human being because I literally texted the girl twice. Like, he couldn't say that, but that's what he was trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that that's what he kind of wanted to say. It's just like he said every word but that. He said every sentence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's what he was trying to apply, and that's like a really weird argument to imply that I'm a shitty human being because I texted a girl twice. I mean, okay, maybe by his standard, not by any reasonable standard.
Yeah, I think also too, it's like a lot of people, especially online, are in their own communities, and maybe, and even though we are, interacting with more people overall in general, like, you could kind of understand how to somebody who just met their girlfriend in like elementary school and their high school sweethearts and all that stuff, like how double texting a girl seems just out of like crazy and bizarre and just a weird thing to do from their perspective of just meeting somebody, through your social circle.
Yeah, well, I think that their perspective, quite often their perspective is just genuine. I think they're often trying to virtue signal. They don't even really believe a lot of the stuff they're saying. Like, I don't know. The guy said that it was like whatever Asperger's that was causing him to hesitate, and maybe that's true. But he was like, when I was pushing him on the points, he was like, it just didn't seem like he really believed this stuff. Like, his answer was, well, I just said earlier. Like, it just didn't feel like he was believed his arguments after I logically dismantled them. Yeah, like, I think quite often they're just trying to virtue signal, not really they actually believe in this stuff. But, if they do, then, yeah, I guess it's kind of a weird thing to believe that someone's a shitty human being for double texting a girl. I mean, that according to that logic, literally every single person will probably be a shitty human being outside of the TikTok social justice warriors. But that's kind of what they think. They think pretty much everyone is shitty, and that America is inherently, like, whatever, flawed. And
we have a rape culture. That's the issue.
Yeah,
rape culture, yeah.
I don't know if there's like that's like again that's kind of getting to bizarre. Like, what is rape culture? Like, my friends, we don't have any kind of rape culture. Like, no one in my friend group is encouraging each other to rape girls. I've never seen it. I'm not saying there's not friend groups where that happens, but that's kind of a bizarre statement. Like, you have to look at that on an individual basis. Yeah, sure, some guys are rapey, but most guys are not. None of my friends are.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
No, I agree that, like, most. I mean, I don't agree with, honestly, I don't agree with not all men, but I hate that statement. That's dumb. But, like, for a lot of women, it's enough men to want them to address all men. And it mightn't be like, okay, well, if you're addressing only 3%, just talk to those 3%. But the issue is, like, according to them, it's like, they don't know who it is. It could be your brother. It could be your uncle. It could be your friend. They just don't report it. They just don't tell. So, like,
but that's an unreasonable thing to do. Like, that would be like me saying, because there's some gold diggers in Miami, every girl is a gold digger whore. right? That would be very unfair for me to say that because most girls are not gold digging whores, but there are some, but I don't know who they are. So I'm just going to accuse every woman of being a gold digger. That wouldn't be fair. Just like it's not fair for women to say every guy's a rapist or all men. No, it's not all men. Most men completely condemn grape. Like if I found out anyone in my friend group ever committed grape, they would not be my friend after that. I can tell you that. Like that would be really fucked up, you know? So yeah, like it's not a fair thing to just lump all people into one category. Yeah.
But it's like for most women, it's like the safest thing to just say, look, maybe a lot of men are dangerous, or 99% of men are dangerous. So I'm going to put up these walls and see, and whoever, well, honestly, if you're hot enough, then the walls don't matter. But if you respect me enough, then I might be able to engage in a relationship with you. The goal, the message that's being put out at least is, if you respect me and I have these walls, and if you understand my trauma, and if you're respectful and comfortable, then we can get along. And when I'm ready, I might, we'll engage in the whole dating game or whatever. And that's, my fault. Yeah.
A woman is entitled to put up as many walls as she thinks reasonable, but I would say that if she puts off too many walls, she's going to be extremely unlikely to find a guy. I mean, life is inherently risky. Every time we go outside, we risk getting hit by a car. Every time we drive, we risk getting killed by a drunk driver. So life is inherently risky, and it's up to us to figure out what amount of risk are we going to tolerate. Like, I don't drive at 3 a.m. on New Year's, right? Because that's pretty risky because there's going to be a lot of drunk drivers. There's things that I'm not comfortable doing because that's too much risk for me, right? And every woman is entitled to figure out how much risk is she comfortable with. But yeah, she's taking a very small risk every time she goes on a date, right? There's no denying that from her perspective. It just comes down to how much risk is she comfortable taking, and that's her decision. But if she is completely averse to any kind of risk, then I would make the argument that she's not going to have anything good in her life either, because everything good requires some level of risk. I had to take a big risk when I started this business, right? I could have failed, right? But the only reason I'm successful is because I took that risk. There's many risks that we have to take in life to be successful. So it's up to each person to judge how much risk they're comfortable with. But yeah, you have to take some level of risk in order to get what you want. There's no denying that.
I gotcha. I mean,
and someone made the point, which I think is a good point. Men are also taking risk of fake accusations. That is true. Like every time I invite a girl to my house, I am taking a risk. Granted, it's not as much of a risk as a woman is taking. There's definitely more of a risk of a woman getting raped than a man getting a false rape accusation, but it's still a risk. Every time I have a girl over my house, I'm taking a risk, and I'm comfortable with that. However, if a girl displays signs of being crazy, then I'm not comfortable with that risk anymore because the risk is substantially higher. Like if a girl is wilding out over text, I'll probably won't invite her over because at that point the risk is too high for me. But for some other guys, that risk might still be acceptable. For me, 10 years ago, that risk would have been acceptable. Now, it no longer is. You see my point?
No, I definitely see. I definitely see your point. I think the goal is to try from the men's side, just eliminate the risk as much as possible, as much as we can do, and police each other into being better people.
Well, I think okay, so we can eliminate. So what you and I can do is we can not be rapists and murderers, right? So that's where we're eliminating the risk that the girl has with us, right? So it's just kind of like a different way of looking at statistics. But the risk that a girl has with me is zero because I'm not a rapist, I'm not a murderer, right? So that's what I'm doing. And if I found out that one of my friends was, I would probably report them or something like that. But aside from that, there's nothing else I can do. I'm not a police officer. I'm not I'm not going to walk around snooping on people's dates and being like, "Hey, you're about to grape this girl." That'd be a really weird way to live. So what else can we do from just, we should take responsibility for ourselves. But aside from that, there's not much we can do.
I mean, have you heard of the term white knight?
Yeah, frankly, I think it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, so white knights, even though they're a lot of times disingenuous, the attempt is to stop bad behavior from men by men, and that's what's supposed to happen. Now, a lot of times they're just trying to get in the girls' pants too, so it's not good.
Wow.
but that's what more of what women would want if they were in a, and they said, and again, the word is uncomfortable, so that's like up for debate, but in an uncomfortable situation, they would want another man to step in and say, hey, let's go here, or hey, take an angel shot, or something like that.
Sure, if I was walking down the street and I saw a woman being harassed, I probably would step in. I mean, my intention would not be to bang the girl. It would just be to be a decent human being. So yeah, I mean, unless I felt like I was in danger, if that person had a weapon, I probably would not. I would just call the police. But, if the person didn't have a weapon, I probably would step in. Yeah, that's just being a decent civilian, I guess, or whatever. But like going around and looking for, trying to interfere, that would just be kind of weird way to live your life. If you were just like, like you're running around like the city, like looking for potential girls, like you're trying to be like a vigilante or like Batman or something like that. That would be like a really weird way to like live your life. So if you see it, yeah, you should probably say something if it looks like something really bad is going on. But generally speaking, you should probably also like, not try to like run around and try to seek injustices unless you're like trying to be like Christian Bale in The Dark Knight or whatever.
No, I got you. The strategy now is, it might not happen all the time. It might be only younger people, but other times, one of the strategies is to just record everything. Like, this looks sus. This looks weird. This guy. Do people know each other? People do record, and people do try to intervene in their own little ways. Now, is sending like if actual rape situation were happening, is sending a video to TikTok going to save that girl? No, but I guess the goal is to try to identify the behavior so other people can know and other people can intervene and all that stuff. And I guess it's effective if what you're witnessing is actually a grave situation. But I don't know. I guess it's up to the person if they're actually good at assessing like what it is, what like comfort is, like discomfort is versus just like I'm bored on the date, stuff like that.
Well, I don't think we should be like super nosy and like try to like intrude into other people's business. I mean, if we see something that's very obvious, then yeah, you probably should stand up. But like it depends. Like if someone's being murdered and you say something, you could get murdered yourself. So it's probably smarter to call the police. Like I'm certainly not going to try to be a superhero. If I see a robbery, I'm just going to report to the police, right? Because I'm not trying to get killed. So you have to take your own safety into account. But if I feel like my safety is not like at risk, then yeah, we'll stand up or I'll call the police. But I mean, like we're kind of getting into the weeds of it. I mean, I think like in your situation on like the train, like you have nothing to feel guilty about. Like you didn't do anything wrong. You're not responsible for that girl's past trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So you should not feel guilty about talking to her.
I mean, no. I get what you're saying. Like there was still trauma there. I mean, personally,
it's her responsibility, not yours.
No, I got like personally, do I feel good? Like it kind of sucks. Like it was more of like in that moment. Actually, it was kind of just like, oh shit, like I had no idea. Like it was just one of those things for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that can happen, but that's like there's the randomness factor. Like, look, if you're gonna go out and try to sleep with a lot of girls, or you're gonna try to pick up girls, you are at some point going to trigger or offend somebody. That's just statistically unavoidable. You're also going to get rejected. You're also going to, like whatever, like you're also going to get laid. Like that's just part of the randomness. And you can't like really, like if your primary goal is just to avoid offending or triggering anyone, you will never get the girl in the first place because you're just going to be so paranoid and so cautious that all the girls who are like actually down, like they'll just be turned off by your vibe because like, why is this guy so apprehensive? Like, like if you're really apprehensive when you approach a girl, she's going to get apprehensive too. So, you need to like take a reasonable middle ground where you are going into it with a good attitude and you're not assuming the worst. But if you get signs that the girl's very uncomfortable, you can pick up on those and back off, right? Like if I approach a girl and she seems very uncomfortable, which doesn't happen often, I'll just let her go. Like if she looks like she's really creeped out, I'll be like, hey, are you okay? You seem really weirded out. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm like, okay, no worries. Have a good day. Take care, man. Like, I'll just fucking walk away. Like, I don't care that much. But again, like, yeah, but I'm not going into that interaction thinking, oh, shit, hopefully this girl, doesn't get triggered or offended. What if? Because if I go into it with that mindset, I'm going to fail.
Would you fail? I mean,
If I
No,
go
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
with that mindset, I'm going to be super apprehensive, and then that's going to turn the girl off because she's going to be like, "Why is this guy so apprehensive? He lacks confidence." If you assume the worst, you're not going to be able to be confident. That's a tricky thing. So instead of assuming the worst, you need to assume the best and calibrate when given other information. Like if you get massive discomfort from the girl, then yeah, you should be able to calibrate and just like move on, wish her a happy day, and then yeah, that's basically it. But also trying not to be creepy can actually come off as creepy. Like that's also another point. So you don't want to be like too occupied with like not trying to come off as a creep.
It's tough. It's tough. Ah, man, it's tough. I gotta concede because it's tough because like obviously what you're saying is correct in my own experience, but like it's tough to like argue from like a woman's perspective and all that stuff. It's super tough to like justify it because of my own personal experience. It's hard for me to logically do it.
Well, most women want a confident, cool, normal guy to go up to them if they're single and seduce her. Like that's what most women want if they're single, right? Unless they're like a lesbian or something, in which case they want a smooth, confident woman. So yeah, I mean, like that's what most women want, right? Honestly, but there's also the element of a social contract. So it's a little different when you're walking down the street and you're on a dating app, right? When a girl's on Tinder, there's a little bit of element of a social contract, right? She's like basically saying like, "Hey, I'm open to talking to you." So you can be more persistent on Tinder than you might be when you see a random girl on the street, right? Because there's no social contract there. Like if you know what I'm saying? So that's also a factor. So I would feel more comfortable being more persistent on Tinder than I would with a girl on the street during the daytime.
No, I got you. I feel on that. I think, yeah, like I guess the issue is like I don't know. It's tough because
someone said, "Is Q2 slowly coming to the dark side?"
I mean, to be completely transparent, I'm more of like a red pill guy. I was trying to come from the blue pill perspective to get more holes, but like it's just like it's tough because it's like from my own personal experience, it's just so much different from what TikTok says it is. Like it's tough to argue from that perspective, like genuinely.
I mean, I definitely like you a lot more than the previous.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you turned into like a robot for a second.
Oh, that's weird. I was saying I definitely think you're way more genuine than the previous person I had on. I mean, he was just like literally like, yes.
It's no robot.
Oh, really? Can you guys hear me just fine? Like, can everyone in chat know if my audio is good or if that's just on your end? Because that's the first thing we got to figure out. So everyone in the chat, just tell me if you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. Someone said yes.
Hello.
Okay. Everyone's saying. Someone said, "Well, Alex is secretly a robot." Fact. No. So, they're just. I'm good. So, do I still sound like a robot?
No, not anymore. Nah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I completely forgot what I was saying. Oh, I was saying that. Yeah, I think you're way more genuine than the previous person I had on. I mean, he was just like, I don't know. It seemed like he agreed with all my logical points, but then he would just go back to like, "Well, I said this before." I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. I'm like, how many times can I walk you through the same logical loop before you agree with me? But then he's just like, "Oh, it's getting late."
No, that was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. I think what the issue with like the last guy was like he was a normal person, and like normal people like they don't if it's like it's in their head, if it's something that's like so obvious and normal, they don't really have arguments for it. It's just like, oh, it's just the way it is. So to him, like pushing past the boundary is a bad thing. That's normal. So I mean, it's normal to think.
I don't know, man. I don't think he thinks the way a normal person think. I would say when I say think of a normal person, I think of like my physical therapist or my dad or someone like that. They don't know anything about game. They don't know pickup. They're both like in relationships, blah blah blah. But if I was like, "Hey, excuse me, dad, what do you think if I text a girl a second time? Do you think that's like really fucked up?" My dad would be like, "No, like that's cool. Just don't like harass her." Like about my physical therapy, like that's normal people don't think the way he does. Like he's very extreme social justice warrior. Like weird logic type of thing. So I don't think most normal people would agree with that logic at all.
I mean, like so my mom would say like, be very cautious when talking to a girl because you don't know what they've been through. Like I think my mom, like in my own personal life, would say like, be more cautious and like be respectful and all that stuff. She probably wouldn't say stay 6 feet apart or like
that's like typical mom advice. My mom would probably say something similar. My mom is just like, oh, just be nice and girls will like you. That's like typical mom advice. It's not really based in any truth. It's just like moms being moms,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like I think a dad would have a better perspective on this than like a mom.
Yeah,
like I don't know. Would your dad my dad is
the wrong person.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, he's probably the same as my
like an uncle or someone or cousin. I don't know, someone who's like not into game, but like still a like reasonable person who gets girls. Like I think all those people would be like, yeah, whatever. And like none of the chicks I've ever had on my podcast ever like took issue with that. I've had chicks take issue with other things that I say, but definitely not that. I've never had chicks, say I'm like too aggressive or anything like that. That's never happened. And frankly, I talk about way more extreme shit on my podcast than this.
I got you. It's just me personally. Like I don't know. I think me personally for the just texting from like a block number thing. That's the only thing I really have an issue with because like she blocked you. Like there's less conversation. There's not really a conversation to be had about that. I think to me that's like my ethics. That's like what just move on. That's for me personally.
You're entitled to do that. I'm not saying everyone has to follow that strategy, but we can't say that someone who then goes ahead and texts the girl once from a different number is a piece of shit, right? It's just like that's also a pretty extreme claim. So that's your comfort level, which is fine. My comfort level is different. I would be okay with hitting up a girl, a different time. But then again, that guy who got with that Sarah chick, his comfort level was way different than mine. He thought it was okay to hit her up 50 times. Like I would not feel comfortable doing that. Like to me, that would be bizarre. But for him, it was fine and it worked, right? So we all have different comfort levels and how far we're willing to go. I'm willing to text a girl 2 or 3 times, but not 50 times. But that guy was, maybe there's some guys who are willing to text a girl 100 times, right? So everyone has different levels of comfort and how far they're willing to go.
I feel you on that. I think also too where you have to be more careful with what you put out is that you are telling every man that watches your content, do this. And now I understand it's for clickbait or whatever, but you're telling every man to do that. That's what the titles and what the videos are saying. So you don't know who's on the other side of that screen, but you're telling every man, hey, do this. And that to that one man, that's nothing. But to that girl, like this is probably a rare occurrence, but like let's say a girl gets the same strategy, the playing with fire strategy, run on her twice, and she just finds it weird or something like that. I mean, it's rare, but like just saying, like, isn't that like not what you want to avoid? Wouldn't that
but it's
make her discomfort? Give her discomfort.
It's not my job to potentially preempt potential discomfort in the girl. Like that's just her job. If she is so uncomfortable with the possibility of that happening, then she should avoid dating apps because that's going to happen. It's my responsibility to control my behavior. It's my responsibility to control the general theme and the advice I give in my content. But it's not my responsibility to control the emotional reaction that she's going to have. Like if that makes her uncomfortable, then, I would say dating apps are not for her. But she's going to get way worse on dating apps. Like, believe me, the people watching my channel, they're not going to be the ones that go too far. It's going to be that random dude who is going to fucking not only hit her up once, he's going to hit her up 100 times. He's going to leave her creepy voicemails. He's going to like find her Instagram. He's going to like harass her. Like, they're not going to be my subscribers. Most of the time, they're going to be like random weird dudes. Frankly, I think quite often they're going to be like the white knights and the social justice warriors, in my opinion. I can't really prove that, but that's just my gut feeling. But what's it called? Yeah, like I can't be held responsible for that, nor is it fair for me to, like really worry about that. Like if you and I are having a debate and something I say triggers something in the past, it's not my responsibility to try to micromanage what I say in order to prevent you from getting hurt. It's just my responsibility to be a reasonable and respectful human being. But if there's something random that I say that triggers you because of a weird life experience you had, I'm not gonna I'm sorry. I will feel empathy and I won't say it again. I'm not gonna try to preempt it because that's just like a really unreasonable way for me to live my life.
No, I got you. I think it's more so like, well, are you taking steps to filter that content to potentially keep it away from weird guys or guys that would.
The thing is, okay, that's a fair point. But I would say this: the weird guys are going to be weird with or without my content. They're like, they don't need like the creepers and the stalkers. They don't need playing with fire in order to be creepy and stalkers. And frankly, I don't think they're even going to be seeking out my content. Honestly, I think they're going to be creepy or stalkerish with or without my content. So, it's not like I'm like, I have a stalker's manual. I'm like, okay, here's the 10 best ways to stalk a girl, right? No, it's like clearly not my content. So yeah, I'm sure some of them will find my content and some of them might use it, but they're going to be creepy and stalkerish either way. That's like, is it like, like the hardware store responsibility, to screen every person that buys a hammer because someone might use it to kill someone? No, that's like really weird. No, but they
screen for bolt cutters.
Sure, yeah, like they screen for bolt cutters, but only to like they give disclaimers, and I do that too. Like I give disclaimers, but like there's only so much I can do on that front.
Could you do more?
I don't know what more I could do though.
I mean, you could put it behind. You could screen your actual clients. You could put it behind a paywall, so it's like, okay, I'm not finding it on randomly on YouTube or recommended on YouTube.
But then, dude, I would have to completely private all my content, and that would completely destroy my YouTube channel. So that would be me completely destroying my chance for growth, chance for collabs, in order to do that. Like that's not really a reasonable thing for me to do.
But you wouldn't take that risk to potentially stop a stalker from getting access to your content?
I'm not gonna private all my content and put it behind a paywall. First of all, the stalker could pay for my content, so that could easily, like, I don't think that's gonna preempt it. Second of all, I think that stalker is gonna be a stalker either way, and my content doesn't teach people how to be stalkers. But I'm not gonna sabotage my whole brand just to potentially, hypothetically, maybe minimize the chances. No, I'm not gonna do that. Like that's not a reasonable thing for me to do as a content creator, to completely torpedo everything I'm trying to build just for the sake of a hypothetical.
Interesting. I mean, but to be fair, a lot of businesses do have to do that with, like, it's different type of things, but like a lot of businesses have to hire, like not hire, but like they have to preempt like racial backlash or saying something racist. They have to preempt saying something wrong on social media. They have to hire social media managers. Like they do have to take steps to potentially not offend people. Like it's a little bit different than getting a stalker getting access, but they do take people. All businesses now, at least, especially because of Twitter, do take steps to keep the bad people away or make it more inclusive and all that stuff.
Sure, but there's only so much there has to be a reasonable limit. There's only so much a business can do. Yeah, I have disclaimers. That's I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to put like a lot of disclaimers and whatnot. But I'm not willing to like private all my videos. No, that's like pretty extreme. Like, and like that would not be a reasonable thing for me to do. Like, to private all my videos, especially since none of my videos have anything to do with stalking or harassing. That's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. That's like asking I don't know, like let's say someone who makes content on I don't know, let's say like something like I don't know, like gun maintenance or something like that. Like they make like videos about like shooting or whatever, gun stuff, right? But for them, like, they do rifle reviews and stuff like that because they're big on hunting. But for them to completely private all their content because someone could potentially take their gun safety advice and use it to murder someone, like you wouldn't ask them to do that. That would just be crazy. It's the same thing here. Like they should put disclaimers. Yeah, I do that. But going further than that, that's pretty crazy.
I mean, but like, I don't know and it's rare for me though to find like gun videos that aren't just somebody just shooting a gun, like actual instruction videos that aren't behind like what is the 18+ filter and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
think
well,
like
I have an 18+ filter too. Yeah, I mean, I think most of my videos are 18+.
oh shit, yeah, I think that's I was like
But
my
now
thing,
we're talking about something completely different. We're talking
yeah.
about kids watching. I think YouTube automatically makes my videos 18+, I believe. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that most of my videos are like not considered friendly for kids.
Okay, that's different. Okay, that's different. Yeah, I think is TikTok 18+ for you?
I really have no idea, but I'm assuming it is.
I don't know if they have a filter for 18+ because you can find twerking on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think like my content is like, I think like there's content that's like way worse for kids than mine. Like I really don't think like mine is just like texting strategies. I think most like 13, 14-year-old kids would be like super bored with it. So I don't even think it would be like that interesting to like young kids. I think like the videos of like 12-year-old girls twerking is a lot more problematic because like pedophiles are actually going to watch that and like maybe use that to fuel their pedophile fantasies. But yeah, me, like, I don't know. I don't think I appeal to that crowd at all.
That's fair. I think, but like, at least we can both agree that that's kind of why you're getting the backlash on TikTok is because TikTok is a weird place where like there's
Yeah.
teenagers, there's liberals. It's like that's where the backlash is coming. It's not coming out of nowhere because people are just. It's like there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
like,
no, there's a reason for it. It's not a good reason, but it's a reason. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of people trying to virtue signal. Yeah,
Right.
I get that. And like some people are trying to like, like most of the people making videos on me, they have like nothing, and then they make a video on me and they get like 1,000 views. So some of them are trying to clout chase. I hate making that argument because I hate when people. So actually, you know what? I'm not gonna make that argument because I can't speak for their intentions. But yeah,
Okay.
like I think a lot of them are trying to virtue signal, and that's to me that's kind of a weird, bizarre reason to make content. Like I'd rather make content to spread value and knowledge, not to virtue signal. I've never I never talk publicly about like all the things I do, like, when I give to charities and whatnot, like, cause I hate that shit. Like if I want to do something good for the world, I'll just do it privately and not like brag about it for like fucking forever or talk about how my ethics are so much better than that person's ethics. That's like really weird to me.
No, I got you. Yeah. I mean, YouTube is tricky. I mean, YouTube is a little bit tricky because it's still teenagers, but like, I don't know.
Someone actually made a good point. I actually kind of, this is a good point. The treating old women like babies that can't handle like basically any kind of adversary is sort of like a type of sexism. I would actually agree with that. Like when you're treating women like just like little kids who need to be protected from themselves, that's also like kind of not a good way to look at women.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but if it's publicly being said that that's how they want to be treated, then giving that to them, I think.
But I don't think most women want to publicly acknowledge they want to be treated like kids. No, I think most women don't want to be treated like kids.
Well, no, I'm not treated like kids, but like handled with kid gloves, if by our definitions.
I think that's only a small percentage of like the TikTok social justice warriors. I think most women don't want that. Like I think most women want to be treated like any other person. They want to be treated, equal, like not like with kid gloves. Some women do, but I think that's a small percentage.
I think what is it that's they don't respond well to being treated, treated with like delicate little fragile things and sex and all that stuff. But that's what they are saying. That's what they would say to you if you asked for dating advice, all that stuff. So that's what they're saying. And
no, I guess that's only a small percentage of women on TikTok. Like most women don't want that. Like most women don't want a guy who's like babies them and shit like that. I hear girls like I like a lot of petite and small girls. So I hear this all the time from like petite girls who are like, 5 feet, 5'1". They're like, it's so annoying that every guy when we have sex is like super ultra careful. Like, oh, does that hurt you? Like, I just want to be fucking hard. And like you're the only guy that's willing to do that. Most of these guys are like so fucking like they treat me like I'm a little kid because I have like, I'm short. and small.
Yeah, nah, no. Most short girls know what they're getting into. Like,
Yeah, like I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like most guys are like fucking pussyfooting around it, but like, don't worry, babe, I'll fuck you nice and good.
nah, I completely understand that. I get it. It's I guess I don't know. I guess, and again, like you and I both know that what women respond to what they say are what they say they would respond to in a hypothetical situation are kind of different, but like they are saying that they would want, like, from what I'm hearing is like they would call sometimes even the simple act of talking to them when you don't know them is creepy. A lot of girls would say that, and that's what they're saying, and that's
No,
what they say.
again, this is where we fundamentally disagree. Only a small percentage of girls on TikTok would say that. Most normal girls, like your average girl who's not like a TikTok social justice warrior content creator, most normal chicks would not say it's creepy for a guy to go up and talk to them. That's only a small percentage of girls.
No, I mean, I hear that. I hear that's what they say more often than not in situations where they don't know the person. Like, why are you trying to talk to me if you don't know me? Now, obviously, the exception is an attractive guy, a handsome guy, a hot guy came up to me talking. That's different. But they're not trying to catch the net of all guys, pretty much. So they're saying like, don't talk to me at all. And well, to be fair, we both know that most guys that are like born attractive or stuff like that, they don't follow those rules, and it's worked out for them and all that stuff because they're attractive and all that stuff. But they don't. Most women don't want most men coming up to them and talking.
Sure, but most women would not say that if a confident, normal, cool guy comes up and talks to me and tries to pick me up, that's like creepy. Most girls would not say that. Most girls would say that's totally fine. They would say it's creepy if that guy won't leave them alone or he's being really weird and creepy about it. But if he's just like having a normal conversation and being like, hey, you know, I thought you were cute and I want to meet you real quick. And, you know, like most girls would not think that's creepy. That's only like a small percentage of TikTok female content creators who would say that's weird. Most chicks would be like, that's totally fine, you know? And if I'm interested, I'll tell them I'm interested. If not, I'll tell them I'm not interested. And, you know, as long as he's willing to walk away, if I tell him no, then that's fine.
I mean, yeah, I just hear more like I don't know how to say it, like not feminist, but like more of like, I guess girls in the United States, 18. Well, to be honest, young girls, 18 to like 16 to 25. More young girls that are.
Where are you hearing this stuff? Where, like TikTok or where?
No. Okay, so I'm hearing it more from social circle, friends of friends. Like I'm hearing more. I don't want a random guy talking to me. That's what I'm hearing. The exact sentence. I don't want a random guy talking to me. I know there's exceptions to that, but I'm hearing more. I don't want just some random guy.
Well, I think what they mean is when they say random, I think what they really mean is creepy. So yeah, I think most women don't want like a really creepy guy going up to them. But like if you ask the question to most girls, hey, how would you feel if a normal, cool, confident guy came up to you? Like you don't say anything about looks. You just say normal, cool, confident guy came up to you and said hello. How would you feel about that? I think most girls would be like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. That would be nice. Like, I don't think most girls would be like, oh, yeah, that's horrible. You know, some girls might, but I don't think most girls would.
Well, I mean, but can we say like looks play a part in that as well? About
looks play a part in it. No one's denying that. But, you know, I don't think ugly people should be like afraid of cold approaching.
I mean, this is kind of harsh, but that is a lot of girls' logic. They think like ugly people should be afraid of approaching.
Yeah, well, like this girl, there's a chick. She's like, sorry, Manny, I wouldn't find it creepy if a normal, confident guy, not creepy, but still annoying. So yeah, so she's saying she wouldn't find it creepy. She might find it annoying, but you know that she's entitled to that opinion. But you know, you as a guy, you can't live your life hoping to just avoid annoying anyone. Like you're gonna annoy people as you live your life. That's just frankly part of being a human being. Like you're gonna annoy some people. So what?
Yeah, but I think
being overly empathetic is actually not that great of a thing. Like you should have some level of empathy, but if you're overly empathetic, that's first of all, it's going to turn a lot of girls off, actually.
Right.
And frankly, you're not ever going to really achieve your goals. So I think there's a reasonable level of empathy that you should have to a stranger, and it shouldn't be like to the point where you're like assuming the worst and being paranoid that you might trigger them.
No, I got you. But what about? But how many times in your life have you been approached by a girl?
I don't know, a handful.
Handful. Like, would you
I get
after
approached
like?
by dudes a lot more who see my channel.
Oh shit. Oh man. All right. But what about? So like, can you understand like after like the 100th time how it might not be appealing,
Yeah, it gets annoying, sure.
and like how even though it might be like a little disingenuous to say it's creepy, how like giving the message that I don't want to be approached is advantageous if you're getting approached like every day or every week to all men. It's more advantageous to do that, and like that's kind of the goal. Even though it's like no, it's not really creepy, but it's better to say it's creepy than to say, well, I'm just gonna be annoyed a little bit. It's kind of like exaggerating. Like the strategy is to eliminate as much approaching as possible because it's, to be honest, slightly annoying. I think it's the same thing like for the
But
technique.
then the strategy for who? That's not my strategy. My goal is not to minimize the amount of girls who are annoyed in the world. That's not my primary goal. That's like, my third or fourth or fifth. Like that's very low in my hierarchy, is to minimize the amount of annoyed girls in the world. That's not my mission.
Yeah, but that's
My
girls.
mission is to help guys have the kind of sex and dating life that they want in a reasonably ethical way. That's let me like rephrasing that. So yeah, like I'm not, like I don't think that should be my goal. That shouldn't be your goal. That's like kind of a weird goal to have. Like, oh, my goal is to just minimize the amount of girls in this world who are annoyed. Well, one way you can minimize that is you never approach a girl, right? Because if you approach a lot of girls, some girl at some point is going to be annoyed. So yeah, like let's just never approach a girl again. Okay, but that's not gonna, that means you're not gonna like ever meet a girl. So how is that a good thing?
Well, I mean, one, it's like you're coming from the perspective of getting sex and all that stuff, and when girls say I don't like being approached, they're coming from the perspective of I don't want to be annoyed. I don't want to have to lose like an hour of my day because I have to talk to like 5 guys.
I mean, an hour of your day, you like 30 seconds. I mean, just say no, and like if the guy leaves, I mean, like what? Like why?
It can be if like especially if the girl's attractive enough, or if they're in a different neighborhood and all that stuff. Like it can get like super annoying to like if you.
I can believe that. Yeah, it can be annoying. Yeah.
But like, and instead of saying annoying, they would say it's creepy, even though that's an exaggeration. I can understand and logically understand how somebody would try to minimize the annoyance in their life and tell the people that are annoying them that you shouldn't try to annoy me and all that stuff and put up that wall. Like to me, I get that. Like that makes complete sense.
Yeah,
if women do
she's
that,
entitled to do that. But if she does it too much, she's going to screen out good guys that she could have been happy with. So she has to decide.
We're talking about strangers.
Yeah, like if the girl screens out every single guy, then she's never going to have a boyfriend or a husband. So she has to. So she's entitled to screen out as many of the people in her life as possible. But if she screens too hard, she's going to miss her chance of a potentially good opportunity. So that's on her.
No, but what if she meets a guy at work and they get married?
But even if she like the guy still has to go for it. So I mean, I would argue that it's a little worse at work because on the street, if you approach a girl and she says no, at least there's no awkwardness. So like, all right, cool, have a nice day. At work, you hit on a girl and she's not interested. That's going to be awkward for a while. So I would argue that it's probably less awkward to do it at like on the street than at work. But either way, the guy's going to have to make himself vulnerable and go for it. And either way, there's a chance of rejection, whether it's at work, on the street, or anywhere.
Yeah, but like there's a difference between like from the girl's perspective, the cute guy at work asking you what are you doing after work, and then you only using that question as their means of trying to get a date, versus a guy on the street trying to talk to them. Like it's I understand like from the man's perspective, it's just like way better. From the woman's perspective, it's just much more comfort already there and much more they're more willing to be able to be,
so I see that, but what's the solution for guys to only hit on women at work? Like what's the solution?
The solution would be to only let women approach men that they like.
But the thing is that women don't approach, or vast majority of women will not approach. So that's going to lead to no one having sex or no one being in relationships.
I mean, there are Well, okay, so like,
Women
so
are
like,
notoriously horrible at approaching or taking initiative. And most women don't.
no, they are.
Most,
They're not. They're better at it with men that are like celebrities or like models and stuff like that. Women,
yeah, that's like a 0.001% of men. Like
yeah,
vast majority of women, they don't even want that. They want the guy to take the initiative. Most women don't want to
yeah.
have to be the ones to take initiative. So in this scenario, no one wins.
Well, no, like, okay, so what the scenario I'm thinking of is okay, so women only approach the rappers, let's just say. They only do that, and then maybe if it's a guy at work or a guy that they knew for a long time or something like that, they might ask them what they're doing later, and they might respond. Like to a lot of girls, that's normal to like that's a normal amount of risk they're willing to take is some guy asking them what they're doing after work or if they have any plans or stuff like
So
that.
according to this scenario, only
Yeah,
celebrities and people who work with women are going to get laid. So for
yeah, what's
example,
wrong with that?
if you work at like a steel plant or any male predominant industries, then forget
Yeah,
about your chances of ever finding a woman.
yeah. What's wrong with that for the women?
I mean, that seems like pretty unreasonable. That seems like most of society is not going to find a partner. So pretty much
Yeah,
everyone's going to like pretty much everyone except celebrities.
yeah,
And again, people who work with women are going to be lonely because
yeah,
if men is not finding a woman, then
yeah.
that's by the same token, the woman is not finding the man because our society is pretty 50-50. So
Mhm.
that's like not a good situation for pretty much anyone except the celebrities or
So
the
that means everybody has to work hard to be a celebrity or be a millionaire, and the
but
country makes more money, and that's good.
that's self-contradicting because if everyone's a celebrity, then no one's a celebrity, right? So if
Yeah,
everyone has like I have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube almost. If
yeah,
everyone has 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, then my
yeah.
100,000 doesn't mean anything, right? So if
Right.
everyone is famous, then no one is famous. You're
Yeah.
only famous because no one else is famous.
No, okay, I got you. I got you. I think give me a second. I think how do I say this?
I don't think that's a reasonable middle ground. Like that's not really good for anyone as a society. Like that's not really good for men, and I don't think that's good for women either. Because again, most women
Yeah.
like a guy who takes the initiative. They don't want to have to do the work for them. Most girls don't like that. So I don't think really anyone wins in this scenario, or at least most people don't win. The best, I think, the most reasonable scenario
Yeah.
is men learn game and learn how to read people and approach girls in a socially responsible way and
Mhm.
pick up under their cues, and if a girl's not interested they move on, and guys pick up game and stop being weird by learning game. I think that's the most reasonable scenario, not this like weird world where only women get to approach.
That okay? Nah, I got you. I got you. I think, but a lot of women they say that at least that they prefer that because that's like hypergamy, going for the best, and then men becoming the best, and then that bar being raised and all that stuff.
I mean, people in prison prefer to be freed from prison, but doesn't mean we as society should do it. I mean, I prefer that, fucking, like, I don't know. I prefer that someone else picks up my dog's shit, but that doesn't mean that, like, that's going to happen. I don't know. Like, that's not a convincing argument that people prefer that. Like, everyone prefers things that benefit them.
I got you. I guess what I'm getting at is that
Let
they
me
say,
answer this chick's question.
oh my fault.
So she's saying like basically, I think the crux of her question. I think it's a fair question. Uh, wait, let me see. Let me go back to her initial point. Okay, so what can I do as a woman to let a guy know that I want to be approached? Well, you may not like this answer, but a lot of it starts with how you dress and how you carry yourself. I think I'm not saying women should dress more conservatively. I'm not making that argument. However, if you dress more conservatively, you will be approached less. So you just have to balance, your goals. Like, how much do you want to wear that sexy, revealing top, and how much do you want to not be approached? And if the answer is you want to be not approached more than you want to wear the top, then don't wear it. So I think that's a practical thing that women can do. I think another one is just be more just be more upfront. Like if a guy comes up to you and be like, "Hey, thanks, I appreciate your time. I have a boyfriend." Just say that. Make a little white lie. This way, because if you say I'm not interested, then some guys will probably be like, "Oh, why are you not interested?" So just make a little white lie. Say, "Hey, I have a boyfriend." That's it. and most guys will leave you alone. If a guy doesn't leave you alone after that, then be like, hey, listen, man, I said I have a boyfriend. I'm meeting him in 5 minutes. Please leave me alone. Like, that's it. Simple as that. Like, it doesn't have to be. 99.9% of men will leave you alone at that point.
No, okay, cool. I find it interesting that like a lot of the times, I guess you could say dating coaches or whatever, they do give advice that's like the normal advice that makes sense, like the I have a boyfriend thing. But at the same time, in other scenarios, they would say, if she says I have a boyfriend, say this. Like, it's like what it like. I feel like it. I understand you are giving advice on that, but like you also do you have a video saying how to respond to I have a boyfriend as well?
I do not, but I mean, like, it depends on the situation. Like, typically, if a girl tells me that she has a boyfriend, I just typically like make a little cheeky joke and I like move on. So I'll be like, I don't know. It depends on the vibe, like how she says it. So but again, I'm the exception. I'm really good at reading body language. So if the girl's like, oh, but I have a boyfriend, right? That's completely different than like, hey, I actually have a boyfriend. Like those two may be the same thing, but they usually mean something completely different. The first one I might say, oh yeah, well, I have a wife. Do you want to be number two? Right? I might respond with a cheeky answer. To the second one, I say, oh, cool. Well, he seems like a lucky guy. Best of luck. So I don't have any videos on that, but that's probably what I would do.
Gotcha. Like, so how is that? So you're the exception. Are most guys the exception to the rule when it comes to that?
No, but I don't think I don't think most guys should keep persevering as much as I do because they're probably not as good at reading body language.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, because I think of the issue I have like with a lot of YouTube stuff is that it's YouTube and that's general information, all that stuff. Like,
well, I think you have to at some level give general information. Like you can't you can only tailor your content so much, right? Like I can't make a video for every type of what if person. That would just be like crazy.
I gotcha. Makes sense. Makes sense.
I mean, do you have any? I do kind of want to keep this under 3 hours, so it's.
Oh, my fault.
No, you're good.
Lost the conversation.
No, this was a really good discussion. I think you're a pretty cool, reasonable person. I enjoyed our discussion. Do you have anything else? Like any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. I mean, not really. It's just more so like, I think it's not necessarily your fault, but a lot of the issue, if you want to, there's like a old community back in the day that was Red Pill, and a 3-letter word. There was a lot of in that community. The issue was there was not a bunch of critical thinking, and that led to a lot of idiots going around being loosed upon the streets and making cities weird and all that stuff. So
yeah, I don't think you should like berate women or harass them. Yeah, that's like weird. Yeah.
No, I got you. But like, I think the issue is that I had with that community is that there wasn't enough like emphasis on critical thinking, reading social cues, and the situation in front of you. It was when girl says this, do this, and it's just like I always now I take issue with that. When I was younger, who cares? Like that they're telling me what to do, who cares? But now it's like, no, there's more nuance to it, and you should read a situation and think about things more than just a line and all that stuff. That's my issue, kind of like that old community back in the day, that they didn't do enough. I guess you could call it screening, but they didn't do enough to encourage critical thinking. They encourage people to just follow my advice and you'll get better or you'll get laid.
Yeah. But I think at the same time, you don't want to overthink things and kind of going back to what you said in the beginning is like going into it with like assuming the worst case scenario. That's not really a good mindset for guys to have. Like that's not something I would tell my son to do if I had one, or my nephews or whatever. That's like not a good mindset for men to have, is assuming the worst case scenario.
I got you. There's definitely a middle ground. I think the middle ground it was more like with that old community, it was a little bit more towards the pushy side, towards the I don't give a fuck side, towards the do things because I said so, and this is what you say in that situation, versus critical thinking and think about what's reasonable, rational in the real world, what people do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think most of the people giving pickup advice have actually.
Oh, I can say that word? You know,
What?
okay. I can say pickup.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking about YouTube and all that stuff. But
Oh no,
yeah,
there's,
it was a pickup.
no, there's nothing wrong. I say pickup all the time. Yeah, I think most people giving pickup advice don't really know shit about pickup, so that's like that's an issue in of itself.
I got you.
Cool,
All right, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
No doubt, Alex. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. All right, guys, we're coming up on 3 hours, so I want to call it so this is more digestible. I think this was a very, very interesting discussion. I definitely like that second person a lot more. Yeah, the first guy, I don't know. Well, I'll give him props for coming on at least. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll do more debates in the future. We'll see if any TikTok SJWs want to debate me. I doubt it, though, after that last one. But we'll see. I'll keep trying to make it happen. All right, guys. Peace.